is on? Yes? Om Gurubhyo Namaha. Now? Om Gurubhyo Namaha. As destined, I am just after lunch, and I do know that lunch makes you a little sleepy, but bear with me, as these are research topics and are very relevant, and they can be incredibly interesting, as I have found out in my journey. I am Paulami Vishwanath Mukherjee. A small introduction, because Dr. Swati Dhaithankarji is there and she doesn't know me. So I am pursuing, I'm a Gandhabhan Shagird of Srimati Ramadevi Lachu Maharaj, and I follow the Lucknow Gharana completely, in totality. Also, I'm pursuing my PhD from CSMU, University Panvel, where Dr. Kapote is my co-guide and Dr. C.K. Singh is my guide. Also, I'm pursuing my Sangeetacharya at the same time, which is not a double bonus, believe me. But my guide there is also Dr. Nandkishore Kapote. So at the foremost, let me thank DPU for this beautiful initiative and starting World Dance Day with so much beautiful performances. Bhaja Govindam is always an eternal favorite with me. And I have also done Shabri in some serial. So I was trying to connect. And here I'm going to today speak on the pedagogy and the teaching methods of the Maharaj family. Primarily, my work centers around Achan Maharaj, Shambhu Maharaj, and Lachu Maharaj of the Lucknow Gharana. Let me start with a small intro. In the 17th century, the Kathakas emerging from the Handias district near Prayagraj coagulated into the syncretic stylized form in the Lucknow Darbar. But many years before that, in the 13th century, Sangeet Ratnakar, verse 1348, distinguished Kathaks from the Natas, the Charans, the Perinis, and the three kinds of Vagyakars, Bandina, Vidyavant, and Priyamvada. This is important to understand the methods of teaching because we have to prove that they also relied on their birth status as well as sacred, right from Vedic times, there were methods of teaching which has come to us, maybe in some kind of a remnant form. These Kathaks were held in high esteem and they used the additional element of dance with their skill in verse and music to create bhav and evoke rasa in the audience. I now jump to 1814 because there was a census taken there by the British government. The census of 1814 by Buchanan, 1825 by James Pinsep, and in 1891 by William Crook, and the report of Munshi Bhagwan Das. According to the census survey conducted by the British masters, we could call, the Kathaks belong to the substrata of Kanyakubj Brahmins or Gaur Brahmins. Primarily, the Lucknow Gharana are Kanyakubj Brahmins. This point I have added into my paper right now today because it is important. It allows us to have an insight into the teaching methodologies of an ancient past, as I said before. The Brahmins originally, as custodians of learning and imparting education in various spheres, had developed a teaching structure. The Brahmin Kathaks, and their surname is Mishras, fulfilled these duties by disseminating religious texts through a medium that appealed emotionally. Unfortunately, what we see is when we look into the past history of the Kathak of the Lucknow or the Awadh Gharana, by the time Kalka Bindadin lineage started, and now I'm talking about Achan Maharaj 1893 to 1950, Shambhu Maharaj 1910 to 1970, and Lachu Maharaj ji 1901 to 1978, due to political upheavals and financial instability, the textual methods of teaching shifted to oral transmission of the art of Kathak. So this was we could say we lost out on many aspects of teaching and learning methods, but they still persevered because as Wajid Ali Shah was banished to Metia Burj, Kolkata, we all know that. And they had students from, the Nawab was a student, the Tawayef was a student, the non-traditional, non-lineage artists were also their students. So they had a complete plethora of students, but they had to resort to different methods. The commonalities of the pedagogy of the three brothers. Every Kathak dancer when we start learning, we have heard these three words. It's called the triad. I call it the triad. Dekhya, Sikhya, and Parkhya. Now, Dekhya would mean see. This is from the Awadhi language. To see. Dekhna, Dekhya, see. Sikhya is to learn, and Parkhya is to introspect. These could be termed as literal translations, but so many years I've been interacting with my guru, Srimati Ramadevi, and many other senior gurus, even Maharaj Ji I have interviewed twice, and Kishan Mohan, Saswati Didi, even Munna Ji. So all these gurus of the Lucknow Gharana, I have come to a conclusion which you may or may not agree on. The Dekhya is primarily a visualization process. It is not just seeing or watching. It is, as dancers, we visualize a lot. We take in images. Like in mere talim mein, I'll speak in Hindi, Didi would say कि पोलू ऐसे बनाओ, चित्र बनाओ, दिमाग में चित्र बनाओ. So when I say Dekhya, it primarily means a visualization process where the student takes in and absorbs what they see. The Sikhya is an understanding and processing the info and analyzing altogether as it is explained to them. For instance, when I start with a Pramlu, on the first day, the student might not understand the beauty of the bowls. They may be struggling with still tau thunga takkid thunga takkid tak dhekid tak tho takkid tak dhekid tak dagdag thunga ta takadiga tak. Now, as I speak, they are absorbing the bowls because it is the learning, that is the Sikhya here. But there is also a mind that is going and analyzing the bowls. I'm going to give all the three examples in terms of the three brothers and their senior disciples as well. So the Sikhya is not just a learning textbook teaching, which we call, and then we forget. Because if in dance, we have seen that teaching consists of building blocks and then we form the foundation. The moment if we forget the building blocks, अगर हम तत्त ही नहीं कर पाएंगे या तत्कार नहीं कर पाएंगे तो आगे के तो पैर का काम आप कर ही नहीं सकोगे. तो यहाँ पे सीखना, especially in the field of performing arts, takes on a new, a different perspective altogether. Now when I say परख्या, परखना क्या होता है? आप अपने आप को कभी-कभी परखते हैं. When we look into the mirror, physically हम परखते हैं. It is introspecting and realizing a movement as we gently understand our body. So parakhna is an awareness of our body. I feel parakhna is the kinesthetic experience. It's like a more hands-on experience because you're understanding your body as it moves. क्योंकि पहले दिन में बच्चे का ये मूवमेंट नहीं होगा कलाई का, जो कलास हम कहते हैं, जो अभी कपोते सर भी कर रहे थे, जो कलास है. एंड महाराज जी वॉज वेरी फेमस फॉर कलास, बिरजू महाराज, Lachu Maharaj ji and everybody. जो कलास है, so you have to constantly, so there may be a day, one day where you might, your wrist may not move the way, or there may be an injury. We see that when we work with IT professionals. But that awareness and to get it right every time and come to that point, it is almost like a hands-on experience, and it is to do with the kinesthetic experience. I will now give examples. I interviewed Maharaj Ji and he talked about his father and his guru. Unfortunately, his father died when he was almost 9 years old or so. But at every point in every interview, he says that as a young child, he would go up to the Talim Khana, the Deodi in Lucknow, and watch his father. And that he imbibed a great deal. So even after his father's physical presence was not there, something remained within him, in his heart and his mind. And then he worked on it and formed that complete movement vocabulary which we love and which we appreciate from the King of Kathak. So this is there in his Kalashram website. It is there in Saraswati Didi's book, Birju Maharaj, The Master Through My Eyes. And this is what he has also mentioned to me. So Dekhya, that child subconsciously, unconsciously imbibed a lot when he saw his father also performing in the royal court of Rampur. अगर हिंदी में बात करें तो बच्चे को ये समझ नहीं होता कि वो क्या देख रहा है. मूर्ण, I call it मूर्ण. आपण लोणचं टाकतो ते मुरतो. So when the child comes in for an admission, there are some days when the child may not dance, but it is so necessary to just sit and observe. First thing, there is so much of energy flow going on from the performer to the one who's watching. And this is the beauty of Kathak and other classical dance forms. This is the beauty of Indic knowledge, actually. The live audience that we get, the live rasikas that we get. So this is a clear example कि देखिया मतलब क्या हुआ. In the September Marg magazine 1959, Maya Rao, a very senior disciple of Guru Shambhu Maharaj Ji, writes about hastas in Kathak. I think this is the first article, and I would mention it to all the research scholars here. You are welcome to the library. But please read this article, and I have included it in my book also, a small piece, where she talks about the Swabhavika Hasta in Kathak. Of course, we are Lokadharmi, but it is a beautifully written article on Hastas in Kathak, which are very indigenous to Kathak. It may be not called Shastriya by the Gunijan, by the enlightened ones, but it is there in Kathak and it is there to stay. And I think this is the first attempt when somebody who learned from the lineage, whose guru was Shambhu Maharaj Ji, coming from the lineage, makes an attempt to analyze. For me, in this article, she also, Maya Ji, decodes the Rangmanch Ka Tukda. I have seen the Rangmanch Ka Tukda by Dr. Vibha Dadich in a session at the Natanam studio in Goregaon, where she also, because she has learnt under Shambhu Maharaj at his home, where she was very small, and she was like an adopted child, actually. So in this, particularly Maya Ji compares it and analyzes it to the Pushpanjali described in Sangeet Darpana, a treatise written in the 17th century by Chatur Damodara. Now this is very interesting because we are trying to find these links which link us to an ancient text, and these are the remnants which we have carried forward or our gurus have taught. Here, Chatur Damodar's chief patron was Emperor Jahangir. I'm just reading out the shloka. Bhavatam bhutaye bhuvad bhavani bhavavallabha angikrita susana gita bhangi mudita manasa. So first she says that in the pataka, there is a description, you have to move forward, which we do, tat. Bhutaye, so alapadma. So we do not use the alapadma, maybe we are using the pataka, but we are using that. Bhuyat, pataka with encircling movement, tathi thetat. तो ये रंगमंच का टुकड़ा से बहुत ही मेल खाता है. Also, here, Shambhu Maharaj, when he taught it to Vibhaji and Maya Rao, the Anjali Hasta is held above the head. And this is for the gods. We know that there are 3 ways of bowing down. Also, it is written very clear in the Sangeet Damodara that it has to be done in 3 variations of the tal. The dancer first goes to the right of the stage, the left of the stage, and pays obeisance to all the Ashtadishas, and which we find, which comes from Vastu Shastra, from the Brihat Samhita also we find the Ashtadisha Stotra. But Lachu Maharaj in his Amad was exploring the Ashtadisha, which means they were dancing in the Natya Mandap, not in the Garbhagriha maybe, but in the Natya Mandap or in the temple premises before the laymen. And in the end, she speaks about that in the shloka it is written, the dancer offers Pushpanjali in the Pushpaputa Hasta and touches the finale with the Anjali Hasta. So this is very akin to Shambhu Maharaj's Rangmanch का तोड़ा, क्योंकि रंगमंच के तोड़े में आप फूलों को इतना प्राधान्य हम देते नहीं हैं अभी. हम उसको नमस्कार में कर लेते हैं, लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं नमस्कार के पहले फूल पुष्पांजलि जो है, जो एक हमारी पूजा में भी आती है, वो हमें वहाँ से एक लिंक हमें दिखता है. So I think this is one of the best examples of Sikya, because here we are not just learning, we are absorbing, we are analyzing, we are putting it out, which we are all trying to do in our own way. So learning in the textbook method and learning this way is a world of difference. It all depends on how immersive the dancer is or how immersed you want to get into that field. The third example of Parkhya, I need some volunteers. Sunil Sunkara will come. I'm going to speak about the Gat Nikas as this has been taught to me by Guru Srimati Rama Devili Lachu Maharaji, and it involves tactile. Tactile learning means using of touch. Here we will be talking about the spine and the breath. So teaching touch involves showing, explaining, and then using touch. So I'm going to jump to the third step. I'm not going to show and explain because this is not a class primarily. And here, instead of actually physically manipulating the student dancer's body, it is the light touch which works wonders. Now there are two ways. One, the guru asks the student to touch. I have primarily asked for a male dancer, Sunil Sunkara, because we have worked together and he knows these Gat kind. Secondly, I want to make it very clear that this is done with the students, they have no issues and then it is done. The gurus were doing it. They were using tactile touch. So he will be touching my spine and we'll be doing the Gajgamini ki Gat, which is the walk of the elephant and then goes on to the Gajgamini Naika. Normally this is a very rare Gat, nobody does it. So he will be, as I walk, he'll be touching me and then on the spine here, the Mooladhara chakra. And then he will be adjusting oneself to the vibrations of energy flow and imbibe. So I'll just do this first and then go on to the next point.
So what I could feel was that the moola, the bottom of the spine, is moving in a pendulum from side to side. Reverse pendulum actually, not downwards, but upwards, and this like a 180 degrees. So that I could clearly touch and see.
Yes. So in this, what happens is that the student starts imbibing the movement as well as the flow and release of breath. Again, one more I will do, but for that I need, just a second, I'm just summing up now. For instance, my Guruji would touch me when I would do the Bhari Matki ki Gat. Now we all know that the Bhari Matki ki Gat is there. So usme tat ta the, 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 tat ta the. Now she would just touch here and lightly touch. The light touch is very important because then your mind is processing and it navigates the neural pathways. And then when the guru is not there, you try to do the same movement. So if this would become more, it would become a Bollywood thrust, or it would become a little gross or a folk movement. So because it has to be done, so she would just touch, stay, that Vazan hai sir pe. There is a lot of load on there, so I will be breathing, hey. So these are my pectoral muscles which are working actually. It is the inner breath that is working. Lachu Maharaj extensively worked on this Gatnikas, and I think Parakhna comes from here because unless you're aware of your body, there are some days when I can't do a Gat because I'm hurting somewhere or I'm in not that frame of mind. I'll just wrap up, ma'am. 10 minutes were given to us, if I remember. There are a few teaching other methodologies which will I just clear. One is the rote system. Now this rote system is a memorization technique based on repetition, and we use this repeatedly. I would also like to just say one small anecdote which has been recorded in an interview by my Guruji. I have interviewed her in 2000. They were filming the movie Kaidi, 1957. Yeah. And Padmini and Ragini, the famous Bharatanatyam dancers, they had to go and train them in Chennai. We all know that Birju Maharaj started with the Ginti Ki Tihai, but I just want to talk about trans-generations, generation to generation. The thinking pattern is the same, so unconsciously they may have done it. When they reached there, and Padanth is by Damayanti Joshi, so like Dhana Dhikite Gegitan, Padmini Ragini outrightly refused. They said, we are not dancing this because we are trained Bharatanatyam dancer, Guruji hame maaf kar do. But they invited them for lunch, the whole samskaras and everything. So Ramadidi recalls this in the interview, that when they reached for lunch, Maharaj ji ne bola, Ramadidi ko aage kiya, बोलो उनको ऐसे ही खड़े हो जाओ, हम करा देंगे. So they started teaching them in numbers. In 3 days, they took all our todas, like dhan dekhe ghigge tan, so ek do teen, ek do teen, char. And all of that was done. And at the end of it, they were amazed that they didn't have to learn the bowls. Now, the same thing Maharajji has spoken to me many times, saying that when I was looking at a wide audience around the world, I had to resort to numbers because numbers are universal. You know, bowls, there are people who cannot pronounce, their language is different from us. So he also started the Ginti Ki Tihai. I'm just talking about how the rote system, and it's interconnected with these kind of number, what we do. The second is the imitative learning, to behave like the guru, and not literally behave like the guru, but to absorb what is good in the guru. This helps in building bonds. Primarily in motor or movements, it is the best approach, but it may be deemed superficial. We also say, "Bachcha na wo imitate karta hai." But it negates the overthinking. Right now, our students are thinking, because we teach them the technique and then we tell them the movement. We never had this choice. We just had to do what we had to do. Ma'am, I'll wrap up. So here, this is a one-way transmission from teacher to pupil. And the third and very important part of the Kathak training is use of props as a teaching technique. We have seen dupatta or an avaran being used in different ways. So it is very important to use the prop to understand the swabhavik or natural movement and not symbolic. Also, the warp and weft of the cloth helps you delineate between a ghungat which is to be done like this or like this. या फिर ऐसे खींचना है, या फिर एक लेके फिर उसको दबाना है. So my Guruji would insist कि we need to work on the cotton. It has to be pure cotton क्योंकि तभी cotton ही होता था या silk होता था pure. This is also, we are finding this in the Sangeet Darpanam, which Sunil is going to explain, so I'm not going to go in that. One of the missing components of this teaching methodology, which I found, which I analyzed, is a tasir. What is a tasir? Tasir is of the spirit, or it is an impression or an impact that you make. So when I was writing an article on Birju Maharaj's cinematic choreographies, I realized that Maharajji would do that movement. It had tasir in it. It was embedded into his genetic code. While when Madhuri or Deepika would do it, it would be more commercial. We are not talking about the beauty, the aesthetic of it, but something was missing, the soul, we can say. So tasir is an Urdu word, and it is repeatedly used by many, many Urdu singers like Begum Akhtar and many others. So, but this component cannot be taught. It has to come natural. Either the student has it or doesn't have it. I mean, you could have children from the lineage, and they may not have it. Something is missing, the soul is missing. And we are incredibly looking at a place where the soul is missing. Because it is about fast movements, but where is the holding position? Where is the position where there is the ठहराव जिसको हम कहते हैं कि स्थायी होना? And we saw that in Swati ji's performance in Kapote sir's. This comes through years of experience as you immerse yourself. So tasir is something that cannot be taught. In conclusion, I have relied on, I have kind of, the conclusion is basically that why is this documentation important? Because this helps future educators to reflect, review, relearn, and improve and strengthen teaching in both formal and non-formal means of education. We could be taking a hobby class, a ladies class, but we have to constantly upgrade ourselves and understand the target audience now. But we will be relying, and we are relying, we may not know it, but we are relying on these ancient methods of teaching. I was given 10 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe I have finished it in time because it's a very small paper. But thank you so much. And if there are any questions, I would love to engage, but we do not have a Q&A session. So thank you, DPU, and thanks for giving me a patient ear.
Good afternoon to everyone. Till the PPT loads, I'll continue from where Palomiji took off. I think today it is serendipitous that I'm following her because she has spoken about the parampara of the Maharaj family. Here we have the PPT. And it was Lachu Maharajji who actually preserved an ancestral manuscript that the Maharaj family had for more than 400 years with them. And from Lachu Maharajji, after he passed away, Ramo Devi passed on that manuscript to Pandit Birju Maharajji. And then there were various attempts made. Palomiji spoke about how Chatur Damodara Sangeet Darpana was in vogue. And for almost 3 decades, it was thought that this manuscript is another edition of Chatur Damodara's Sangeet Darpana. Recently, with the help of Dr. Arjun Bharadwaj from Bangalore, and also with some of the guidance of Shatabdani Dr. R. Ganesh, we have uncovered that this is original manuscript, an original manuscript never before seen, never published before, and that was recently brought out, the Gaurishwara's Sangeet Darpana. And this is the book. It was launched last year in Pune itself, at the Pune University. Dr. Nandkishore Kapote was there. And it's my great pleasure to present it here today in this August gathering of all the dance styles coming together. So a brief history about the book. The folios were available, but they were deciphered, and 1,400 Sanskrit shlokas were brought together. And when we look at this particular book, it is very different from many others. And so today I'm trying to look at the book, exploring it through 5 questions that dancers usually ask. The first question we ask is, where does dance come from? Why do we dance? Where do we dance? How do we dance? And what do we dance? This is typically what we all spend our lifetime going around. So I thought, let me attack the book with this mindset so that maybe other practitioners would be interested in coming to it. The first question, where does dance come from? So the Sangeet Darpana gives us a very beautiful story that is an amalgamation of various traditions. When Shiva played the Damaru, from the Damaru emanated the stotras, which were both Vyakarna and also Sangeeta. So that is what the Sangeet Darpana gives us, that through Shiva and through the Nada of Shiva, and I come to the word Nad, Nad being very important, or the cosmic rhythm. Through that, both language as well as Gayan, Vadan, Nartan have emanated. And we see this going forward. We see this in Abhinay Darpanam when we have all 4 Abhinayas as part of the Mangalacharan. And we see it in many other treatises. This connection between Nada and how Nad can transform into word, the spoken word, as well as syllables. In a bird's eye view, a 400-year-old treatise, and here we connect when I'll go back to the roughly 4th century. In the Vishnu Dharmotar Purana, we have the Nritya Utpatti through the Hayagriva Rupa of Vishnu. When the Hayagriva Rupa starts dancing, and in order to, for the vanquishing of Madhu and Kaitava, that dance was so beautiful that is where we have another story parallel to the story of Shiva's dance. So here we have Narada and 99 other sages along with the Gandharva Raja Tomara, a name that appears in this manuscript, a new character. They all pray to Hayagriva through a yagya. At the end of the yagya, everyone is given 1 fruit, but Narada is given 3 fruits. So our Tomara is very jealous. Sometimes artists do get jealous. He's a Gandharva Raja. So he says, why did Narada get 3 fruits, and what are those 3 fruits? I want them too. So then he goes from god to god. First he goes to the Vayudeva, then he goes to the Yamadeva. Finally, all of them send him to Adi Shakti. Only she can tell you. Adi Shakti says that the only person who can understand Vishnu is Shiva himself. So what does he do? He does 10,000 years of tapasya for Shiva. Only that much riyaz, not more than that. When he does that, Shiva appears, and Shiva says, let us do a yagya. And from the yagya is born Deepak Rag, which dances. Now that Deepak Rag was so ferocious and so out of control that Tomara says that if you give me something that I can use, how will I take this to mankind? So he says the only person who can, Shiva says, the only person who can make something that you can take to all mankind is what Vishnu can teach you. So now let us all go and do tapasya of Vishnu, and then the tapasya continues. Finally, Vishnu arrives, and Shiva and Tomara create a number of raginis which together perform for Vishnu. Vishnu is very happy and tells Tomara, you take this knowledge and take it to mankind in the Kali Yuga. On the 9th day of Kartika, you come to the earth and spread this knowledge. So this is how the entire descent of the art, the celestial art, has been given in the first 5.5 chapters. That is followed by a number of chapters on Sangeet, which cover a number of raginis. And from there, the 13th chapter, which talks about the Nrityadhyay. So I'm going to jump directly to that today, coming to the question of dance. Why do we dance? And here the manuscript gives us a beautiful reason why. Shroyanti ye narabhumo, katishyanti ye janaha, chintayati chaye jivastesham mukti pradam bhavet. Anyone who reads it, performs it, listens to it, will attain mukti. So we see the goal of dance, as we all commonly say, is salvation or is liberation. And here we can connect with two important concepts. I mentioned the Vishnu Dharmottar Purana. There it is written by Markandeya that the best way to seek Vishnu, the best way to reach him, is through the dance of Vishnu. We saw Swatiji reach that during the beautiful composition by Adi Shankaracharya today. And later we see Abhinava Gupta in the 11th century. He tells us that it is not liberation which is actually the true goal of mankind, but the aesthetic relish of liberation is what we are after. That aesthetic relish of rasa. You want to be feeling that liberation on stage, but once we are liberated, do we need that feeling? Or can we experience anything once we have left our body? We cannot. So here we have the dichotomy, and so the goal of reaching mukti is what has been made as a parama prayojana of this manuscript. When we again look at the way emotions and bhav transfers, so our three levels of body, we have the sthula, then from that we go to the sukshma and the karana sharir. So bhav is what leaves an imprint within the karana sharir. It is why sometimes people have past life impressions. They have fears of snake, of fire. We do not know why it happened in this lifetime, but there's an impression that can be retained within us. Artists feel it as bhavodreka. And when it transforms to the audience, that is when they experience rasa. So at the core of this manuscript, just like Natya Shastra or like other treatises, they talk about how to create this, how to create bhav, how to create rasa, and from there, how to attain mukti. So, and for this, they give us a beautiful katha, the character of Tomara. Now, when we look at the Awadh Parampara, Tomara is not there, but the character of Tambaru, who is another horse-faced Gandharva Raja, which many of you might have seen pictures. His stories are very popular. So it is possible that maybe the author Gaurishwara must have taken that as a basis and created it. We can only guess, because so far we haven't found other editions of this manuscript anywhere else. The questions that we ask, where do we dance? Over here, very beautifully, they talk of space and energy and the Brahmasthana right at the center of the stage and the performance of Shodash Upchara through the dance mudras. Paulumiji spoke about how the Rangmanch Toda is performed in Kathak. That is also a direct connection to this, of performing that puja over centuries. Of course, it has become shortened from the 19-step Purvaranga of the Natya Shastra to maybe that one Pushpanjali that we do at the center of the stage. How do we dance and what do we dance? Over here, very quickly, since I have only 1 minute left, I'm going to spend a little time on some of the terminologies that we see here. Some of it was also danced before this. Sulu. Sulu, when we, in Kathak especially, when we stand, the Sausthav position, we all know that the waist and the body is in line. And this position, in Gauri Mata, it is mentioned that two hands in Ardhachandra, when you place it on your bahu, this creates the Kavacha position. The Kavach position, the Ishtadev is Surya. So in the Sangeet Darpan also, we see the Kavach position and the Sausthav given in the style of how normally Kathak dancers use it, where the body is in alignment. And in that, the few things which are given are Sulu, which is the movement from side to side that we see in That, or the movement around, which is like the snake's hood. So the Sulu is clearly given. From there, we see a number of gatis. The Sausthav gati, I just showed that. The Latakara gati, I'm giving just few examples of some other. The book has a number of gatis, but the Latakar gati which is used, the movement, Sab bana than aayi, sham pyar. All of you must have seen this gati being used in this Thumri. Adhyardika Gati, which actually coincidentally Paulumiji presented today, the Gajagamini Gati, the Adhyardika, its variation has come into Kathak as the Gajagamini and the Hansagamini. The book also has a beautiful video demonstration by Shashwati Senji and Mamta Maharaji demonstrating the traditional Gatis of the Lucknow Gharana. So this is Tomara, his story, learning various things and being a part of it, bringing the knowledge down. I'll end with a last thing for all the Kathak dancers here. The book has given us many firsts, and one first that it gives us the half matra talas, the apurna talas as we say, which has become very popular in Kathak tradition today. So the last thing that Maharajji created, this was on around 15th January, before he passed away, he was working on this Sade Das Matra, and this was the theka he created based on the Hayaracha tal given in the book. And I'll just say that, and we'll conclude with that. Dhi na, dhi na, dhi na, tu na, katta, tirkit, dhirkit, dhi na, dhi na, dhi na, tu na, katta, tirkit, dhirkit, dhi. So beautiful tal that he created last. He even wrote the foreword for it. Unfortunately, we could not have him when we launched the book, but he was there throughout the process. And it is a great moment of pride for me, for all the Kathak dancers here, that through Kathak we have had, through a Shailidhar Gharana, we have a manuscript coming out, which shows that when we say, yes, it is truly wonderful. And for a long time, Kathak dancers have also faced that y'all are not connected to Shastra. But when Kathak dancers have said that their Shastra is Gurumukhi, we have evidence that the ancestors of these gurus did know the Shastra, but maybe unko pi gaye wo, they modified it and then they brought it out through their own language, in their own terminology to the future generations, as was the need of the hour. Because the need of the hour then may not have been a critical anvation, but it may have been in preserving and propagating the dance form through the political changes that have been happening in our country up till independence. So this wonderful book, I thank you all for your time. It is truly something that all of us Kathak dancers can be proud of, and we hope many of the other dancers also do make use of it. I would request Swati Tai and Nandkishore sir to please accept this for your beautiful institute here from behalf of the entire team.
I kindly request Dr. Swati ma'am as well as Dr. Pandit Nandkishore sir to felicitate.
One last thing. So I'm very proud to share that this book has been added into the syllabus of Sri Sri University as well as Kavi Kulaguru Kalidas Sanskrit University. And I hope it can become a part of the syllabus in this institution as well. It would be a great honor. Thank you.
I'll be talking on a very technical term, the Kala Tattva in Chand and Tal. I'll be going a bit faster because we are in short of time. The abstract is to critically analyze the Kala Tattva seen in poetry, Kavya, and in the Nritya Sangeet, establishing relation between Chand and Tal. This research paper explains how the Tal Tattva takes the form of Chand in Kavya and that of Tal in Nritya, thus coming to conclusion that what is Chand in Kavya in Tal is Tal in the Nritya Sangeet can be explained and cited with examples. Rhythm is born naturally in music. The primitive man must have experienced this rhythm in the flowing rivers, in the eternal flow of streams, in the gradual sunrise and sunset, in the regular cycle of the seasons, in the gradual development of life. The speed of these rhythms became chand in literature by taking the support of language and became rhythm tal by becoming proof of speed and started breathing life. There is no music in the world which does not have rhythm, but rhythm is the speciality of Indian music only. Many tals are used in Indian music which are very subtle and complex. The word tal used in the music science has its own history. There were experiments to divide the unbroken time into verses or post, and they were called tal. Tal binds music to a certain rule or time. Tal develops various aesthetic movement styles in music. By disciplining the music, Tal enthralls the listeners with its compact form, permanence, and miraculousness. It is because of Tal that it has been possible to preserve the ancient and the present music for the future by means of notation and lyrics. Tal is described by Acharya Sarangdev. He has written the etymology of this word Tal from the Dhatu Tal word in the Sangit Ratnakar with the base meaning prestige. Tadich writes the same thing in his book Natya Shastra Ka Sangeet Vivechan, that is, by putting the prose suffix in dhatu, the derivation of the word tal is known because song, instruments, and dancing, all the three are based on tals. Subhadra Chaudhary writes Pratishtha repetition means to give support, to organize, to bring stability, to bind in a thread, etc. By giving an arrangement to the various elements in the song, instrument, and dance, rhythm is the element that gives stability and support. Some people believe that the sound produced when two objects collide with each other is called tal, but the actual explanation of the tal is given in Sangeet Kaladhar as follows: Tala Kala Kriyamanam. The measure of the action of time is called tal. Pandit Purudadich says the word tal is originally derived from the tal, that is karatala, palm, because in form the speed of time was captured only by clapping hands and is still is in use. In place of cymbals, manjira, etc., musical instruments were used to hold the tal. Hence their name became tal. In Natya Shastra, Bharat has mentioned the silent Nishabda and the spoken one Sashabda. Shamya or Tala Kriya is also mentioned in Natya Shastra. Therefore, the evidence of presence of Tali is found from time immemorial. Bharat has discussed various parts of Tal in a Ghanatodya Vikalpan. He says that Ghan, that has been made with the use of Kala, Path, and Laya, etc., its proof is known as Kal by the combination of Tal or the division of the Kal consisting of Kal, Path, and Laya, or the quantitative proof of Ghanavadya comes in the class of is called tal. When rhythm is used on the occasion of musical show, it is called the parameter of time. The word kala is used. Its meaning is proof of time. Sangitacharya Kohal has presented the philosophical fact that tal originated from the combination of Shiva and Shakti with the rhythmic movement of Shankar and Shakti. The world and tals have been created. Tala bhavas tala, it has an nirukta which means bottom, that is rhythm in the palm. In colloquial terms, the word tala means the one who lives below and the one who holds. In the same way, the functional part discovered by time which holds song, instrument, and dance on itself is tal. Bina talena gita shuddhitam jayate, etc., as you can read it on the slide. Music with tal creates happiness. Just as if there is no captain of the ship, the boat drifts away. In the same way, if there is no rhythm, the song will go astray. In music, the equal speed of time is called laya, and the means of measuring time in music is called tal. If the laya deteriorates, then it is natural for the tal to deteriorate. Then singing, playing, and dancing cannot happen. If you sing a song, play an instrument, or dance, that is, if we talk about the genre of music, then music cannot be imagined without rhythm. So we can say in clear words that time measurement in music is tal, the unit of measuring it is called matra. In broad sense, time is invisible, infinite, limitless, moving dimensions spread throughout the universe. The speed of Kal is always moving forward, that is moving forward, and with this speed, man gets the same sense of time and its diversion. This feeling of passing of time is the root cause of rhythm creation in music. According to the Indian thinking, rhythm has been conceptualized in the form of frequency. Therefore, the repetition of direct experiment, tal, keeps on happening again and again in many cycles. Now we talk about chanda. Sound is the root of all communications. There are two types of speech, varnatmika vak and then nadatmika vak. The expression of sound is in country and time of this. The element of time is integrally associated with sound. The origin, propagation, and absorption of sound takes place in the same period. This time takes the form of regular continuous motion, then it creates music. Tal and chanda by remaining in regular motion. Bharat has widely called the element of speech as word and the element of time as verse. There is no such sound that is outside time scale, and neither the value of the time is without sound. Time is infinite, whose knowledge is not possible. It is necessary to make divisions of time for knowledge. It is necessary to have a verb to make a sense. Sound in action is necessarily infinite, no matter how subtle. When an ant moves, there is a sound in it too, but it cannot be received within the range of our ears. The knowledge of time in the form of consciousness is only through the heartbeat. When it is normal, we cannot hear it, but when the heart rate increases, it is heard by applying ear. In this way, speech and time, these two elements together generate sound, which is the basis of the behavior of the whole world. In poetry, Swara Tattva is expressed in the form of verse and Kala Tattva in the form of Chanda. The basic characteristics of Chand is its rhythm. When there is no rhythm, rhyme is impossible. That's why poetry is rhymed and not prose. Rhythm is the characteristics of Chand, but the lie is not Chand. When the divisions of time are made at the continuous Kal, then it is called Laya. When the Laya is given a spatial shape on the basis of these fixed units of Rasva, Dirgha, or Laghu, Kuru, then Chand is formed. That is why the purpose of rhythm is only to divide Kal. Just as the ungrammatical form of sound is Nad and the ungrammatical form is Akshar, Varna, Pada, etc. In the same way, the ungrammatical period can be called Laya and the grammatical form can be called Chanda. Chandas or prosody, the study of poetic meters. Meters found in the classical poetry can be classified into three kinds: Akshar Vritta, Varna Vritta, Matra Vritta, the Muktak, and the Layatmak Chanda. The explanation of the relationship between chand and verses and rhythm or tal. Kal element is expressed in the form of chand in poetry and in the form of rhythm in music. That is, both chand and tal are measure of kal. The place that chand verses get in the literary poem, the same place is given to rhythm tal in music. Both measure time or the kal. Verses are based on alphabets in poem, but rhythm is based on spoken sashabda, nishabda actions, kriyas in music. After voicing a song according to its rhyme, the time taken to measure it on the basis of lagu guru is the definite measurement of tal. While in poem, the akshar sentence, a part of the poem, etc., that is the time taken to measure the the rasva dirgha pronunciation of akshar is measured by chanda. The time element of sound is measured by rhyme in poetry and by rhythm in music. Therefore, both rhyme and rhythm are measures found as poetry is mainly valued by rhyme and music by rhythm, so both of them provide the pieces. In the rhythm perception of poem, chand have been recognized on the basis of lagu guru, but when the same poem is set to music, the rhythm perception conducting chanda becomes a tool to measure time taken in the music by becoming tal, rhythm.
Last
In
2 minutes.
Rasva Dirgha and lagu guru both are different only by difference of kal, time and words. The rhythm tal and the rhythm of reciting chand is based on verbal and non-verbal, that is the sashabda and the nishabda kriyas. Bharata also says that rhythm is derived from the three elements kala, path, laya, and vita. Rhythm is created from kala, path, and rhythm. Kala is the unit of value which we call matra today. Path is done by hand, which are of two types, like I said, sashabda and nishabda. Laya is being used in music since ancient times, but in place of kala, matra, and path, ghat or aghat has started being used. In poetry, actions are done with the hands according to the rhythm, then tal will be formed, and if there is only lagu guru sequence without action in music, then it will be called chanda. That's why Bharata called the special convolutions of lagu guru sequences lyrical circle, geya vritta. We'll come to some examples. I'll just give one example. We know this. काल करे सो आज करे सो अब, पल में परले होएगी, बहुरी करोगी कब. This is a matter of poetry, but now we look into its tal. It will go dha dha te te dha dha tina ta ta te te ta dha thina. The chand is very clear in both. So from here we come to a conclusion. The pronunciation time of 5 nimisha of 5 rasva syllables is called laghu or matra in the tals described by Bharata. 2 laghus make a guru and 3 laghus make a plut. This laghu guru plut is different from the plut of the Chanda Shastra or rasva dirgha plut of the grammar. Guru is also synonymous to kala. Rhythm, tal, part is also called kala. Sashabda, nishabda, kriya, action
Time
are
is
also
up.
called kala. Thus, we come to a conclusion that 5 rasva later pronunciation time or 5 nimisha time is called matra, and the period of 5 nimisha between action of 2 matras is called the madhyalaya. Speed or laya experiments prayog in the rhythm tal have been called yati. According to the Gunasutra theory, Tutishra jati laya and the Chanda Shastri and the Chatushra jati laya is also mentioned. Thus, we find in the definition of tal, rules of chanda are also followed. Hence, from this, it is very clear that Bharat Muni has composed tal on the basis of chanda only. So we can say that chanda and tal are two sides of one coin itself. Thank you. I had to rush in, sorry, because short of time.
हेलो, नमस्कार, प्रणाम। सभा में उपस्थित सभी गुरुजनों एवं गुणीजनों को मैं प्रेरणा अग्रवाल, रिसर्च स्कॉलर फ्रॉम श्री श्री यूनिवर्सिटी कटक अपना प्रणाम अर्पित करते हुए आपके आशीर्वाद की आकांक्षा रखती हूँ। आज मेरे द्वारा प्रस्तुत किए जाने वाले शोध पत्र का विषय है साहित्य और नृत्य। वैसे तो प्राचीन काल से साहित्य और नृत्य आपस में गहन तौर से संबंध रखते हैं, यह हम सभी को ज्ञात है। साहित्य और नृत्य का संबंध दो प्रकार से हम देखते हैं। प्रथम है साहित्य में नृत्य एवं द्वितीय है नृत्य में साहित्य। मैंने अपने शोध में दोनों ही बिंदुओं पर प्रकाश डालने का प्रयत्न किया है। भारतीय सौंदर्य शास्त्र के आधार पर साहित्य एवं नृत्य दोनों का मूल उद्देश्य रसोत्पत्ति है, जो कि सर्वप्रथम नाट्य के आधार पर आविष्कृत है। नृत्य में प्रयुक्त होने वाली ठुमरी, गजल, भंजन, वंदना, स्तुति, अष्टपदी, कविता आदि सभी रचनाएं नृत्य का साहित्य हैं। आचार्य नंदिकेश्वर ने अपने अभिनय दर्पण में नृत्य का लक्षण बताते हुए लिखा है, किसी गीत पर भाव और ताल से युक्त किया जाने वाला अभिनय व्यापार ही नृत्य है और यह गीत कविता है, साहित्य की एक विधा है। आचार्य शारंगदेव के अनुसार नृत्य वाद्य का अनुकरण करता है और वाद्य गीत के पीछे चलता है। इस प्रकार नृत्य और साहित्य एक दूसरे से पारंपरिक रूप से जुड़े हुए हैं। साहित्य, कला, नृत्य इत्यादि संस्कृति के विभिन्न अंग हैं। नृत्य और साहित्य दोनों ही भावाभिव्यक्ति के साधन हैं। दोनों ही साधनों के माध्यम से मनुष्य अपने हृदय के भावों को व्यक्त करता है। एक साहित्यकार अपने हृदय की भावनाओं को शब्दों द्वारा प्रकट करता है, जबकि एक नर्तक उन्हें अंग प्रत्यंग उपांग के संचालन द्वारा। नृत्य और साहित्य सामाजिक जीवन का प्रमुख अंग है। यदि देखा जाए तो साहित्य नृत्य की नींव है। एक समृद्ध साहित्य के बिना नृत्य अर्थहीन एवं एक मृत तकनीक के समान रहेगा। किसी भी नृत्य प्रदर्शन में विशिष्ट धार्मिक एवं साहित्यिक परंपरा जीवंत हो उठती है, जिसे एक कवि अपने काव्य में शब्दों के माध्यम से व्यक्त करने का प्रयत्न करता है। हमारे देश के आध्यात्मिक और धार्मिक विचारकों पर नृत्य का गहरा प्रभाव रहा है। नृत्य के माध्यम से उन्होंने अमूर्त सिद्धांतों को पुष्ट किया है। अनेक स्रोतों से साहित्य और नृत्य के बीच जो विभिन्न प्रकार के संबंध स्थापित किए गए हैं, उनका विश्लेषण करने के लिए कुछ बिंदुओं को आधार बनाया गया है, जैसे कि वैदिक और उत्तर वैदिक साहित्य, ऋग्वेद, उपनिषद और सूत्र में नृत्य, महाकाव्य, पुराण में नृत्य, गीतात्मक काव्य, कथात्मक काव्य और भक्ति काव्य में नृत्य, नाटक और नृत्य। इस उद्देश्य की प्राप्ति के लिए कुछ श्रेणियां भी बनाई गई, जैसे आदिकाल से ही साहित्य ग्रंथों में देवी देवता एवं मनुष्य किसी न किसी अवस्था में नृत्य करते हुए पाए जाते हैं। हिंदू पौराणिक कथाओं में नर्तक नर्तकी, नायक नायिका आदि अनेक पात्रों का उनके गुणों के साथ वर्णन किया गया है। इन चरित्रों में वे मानवीकरण शामिल हैं जो हम साहित्य में देखते हैं। वैदिक साहित्य में नृत्य। साहित्य में नृत्य का पहला संबंध वेदों से मिलता है। वेद न सिर्फ भारत के वरन विश्व के प्राचीनतम ग्रंथ है। हमारे यहाँ वेदों को अपौरुषेय माना गया है। नृत्य की परंपरा वेदों से पूर्व ही भारत में विकसित हो चुकी थी। वैदिक काल के ऋषिगण नृत्य से परिचित थे, तभी तो उन्होंने वेदों में नृत्य की चर्चा की। ऋग्वेद वेदों में सबसे प्राचीन वेद है। इसमें संगीत के साथ ही अभिनय, नृत्य तथा काव्य का स्वरूप भी मिलता है। ऋग्वेद में कवि की नृत्य के प्रति संवेदनशीलता स्पष्टतः दृष्टिगोचर होती है। ऋग्वेद में धार्मिक और प्रतीकात्मक धरातल पर हम पाते हैं कि नृत्य का श्रेय देवताओं को दिया गया है। ऋग्वेद में यह भी कहा गया है कि देवतागण नृत्य करते हैं। नृत्य मानो अमृत, जगाम नृत्य नर्तनाय कर्मणि गात्र विक्षेपाय जैसे वाक्यांश वेदों में सर्वत्र ही प्राप्त होते हैं, जो इस बात के प्रमाण हैं कि वैदिक ऋषि नृत्य की क्रिया से भली भांति परिचित थे। यजुर्वेद की बाजत स्नेह संहिता के पुरुष सूक्त में लिखा है, नृत्याय सूतम गीताय शैलुषम। यह भारतीय चिंतन एवं साहित्य के इतिहास में एक महत्वपूर्ण ग्रंथ के रूप में दृष्टव्य होता है। इंद्र, अप्सराएं, उर्वशी, मेनका इत्यादि का वर्णन यजुर्वेद में है, किंतु वे नृत्य से संबंधित नहीं हैं। ऐसा प्रतीत होता है कि नृत्य का श्रेय उन्हें बहुत बाद में दिया गया होगा। सामवेद, संगीत का सबसे बड़ा आधार सामवेद है। नृत्य का संगीत के साथ अटूट संबंध है। सामवेद की रचना ऋग्वेद के पाठ्य अंशों को गाने के लिए की गई थी, अतः इसमें नृत्य संबंधी सामग्री नहीं दिखती, किंतु यह वेद मार्गीय और देशी प्रकार के संगीत और नृत्य की अवधारणा को बताते हुए नृत्य कला में अपना योगदान देता अवश्य है। अथर्ववेद इसमें नृत्य कला का उत्कृष्ट रूप दिखाई देता है। इसके पृथ्वी सूक्त में कहा गया है, यस्याम गायंती नृत्यंती भूम्याम। इससे स्पष्ट है कि वेदों की रचना से पूर्वी लोक में नृत्य और गान प्रचलित हो चुका था। साहित्य में नर्तकी की उपमाएं दी जाने लगी थी। नाट्यवेद ऋग्वेद से गीति काव्य, यजुर्वेद से भाव मुद्रा, सामवेद से संगीत तथा अथर्ववेद से भावनात्मक एवं सौंदर्यात्मक अंग लेकर ब्रह्मा ने पांचवें वेद नाट्यवेद का विकास किया। कालांतर में 4 वेदों के पश्चात 4 उपवेद भी लिखे गए, जिनके नाम हैं आयुर्वेद, धनुर्वेद, गांधर्ववेद तथा अर्थशास्त्र। इन उपवेदों की चर्चा महाभारत तथा गौतम धर्म सूत्र में भी की गई है। अनेक विद्वानों के अनुसार नृत्य में चारियां पूर्व से ही विद्यमान थीं, किंतु धनुर्वेद के अध्ययन से नृत्य में अनेक प्रकार की नवीन चारियों का विकास किया गया। परवर्ती ग्रंथों जैसे तैत्तरीय ब्राह्मण, कौशतिकी ब्राह्मण, छांदोग्य उपनिषद, कात्यायन श्रोतसूत, काठक संहिता आदि में भी नृत्य के अनेक संदर्भ देखने को मिलते हैं। नाट्यशास्त्र भरत मुनि ने नाट्यवेद का जो इतिहास लिखा वह कालांतर में नाट्यशास्त्र कहलाया। इसमें निहित गायन, वादन, नर्तन, अभिनय, रस भाव तथा नाट्य रचना के ऐसे शाश्वत सिद्धांत थे जिसके कारण यह अमर हो गया। इसे 5वें वेद के रूप में भी जाना जाता है। संस्कृत साहित्य में नृत्य की प्रस्तुति का सर्वप्रथम उल्लेख महाकवि कालिदास के मालविकाग्निमित्र नाटक में और मालविका के छलिक नामक नृत्य के रूप में प्राप्त होता है। रामायण में भी हमें नृत्य के अनेक अवसर दिखाई देते हैं। रामायण का संगीत और नृत्य की दृष्टि से अत्यंत विकसित काल था। यह बात रामायण से स्पष्ट हो जाती है कि जिस काल में सुशासन और सुव्यवस्था होगी उसी काल में संगीत, नृत्य आदि कलाओं का पोषण संभव है। महाभारत काल में नृत्य। महाभारत काल में श्री कृष्ण जैसे युग पुरुष का वर्णन मिलता है जो स्वयं नटवर कहलाए। महाभारत से ही ज्ञातव्य है कि उस काल में रास नृत्य का आयोजन हुआ जिसमें कृष्ण ने गोपियों के साथ मिलकर संपूर्ण जन चेतन को मोहित कर दिया था। महाभारत के हरिवंश पर्व में इसका प्रमाण मिलता है। पौराणिक ग्रंथों में नृत्य ऐतिहासिक तथ्य से परे हमें नृत्य कला और साहित्य के संबंध को दर्शाते हुए पौराणिक ग्रंथ भी प्राप्त होते हैं। हरिवंश पुराण, शब्द कल्पद्रुम, ब्रह्म पुराण, अग्नि पुराण, विष्णु पुराण, हर्षचरित, अभिनय दर्पण, संगीत रत्नाकर, अष्टाध्यायी आदि अनेक ग्रंथों में नृत्य के प्रमाण स्थान स्थान पर दृष्टिगोचर होते हैं। संगीत रत्नाकर और अभिनय दर्पण में गंगावतरण, दशावतार तथा समुद्र मंथन जैसे कथानकों को प्रस्तुत करने का निर्देश दिया है। कृष्ण कथाओं को भगवत साहित्य में प्रचुरता से देखा जा सकता है। गीतात्मक काव्य, कथात्मक काव्य और भक्ति काव्य में भी हमें अनेक नृत्य के अवसर दिखाई देते हैं। कथक नृत्य के परिप्रेक्ष्य में साहित्य और उसकी उपयोगिता एवं प्रयोगशीलता की संभावनाएं। कथक मात्र शरीर की भाषा और अभिव्यक्ति का साधन नहीं है, वरन वह विचारों का भी माध्यम है और यह विचार एक नृत्यकार को साहित्य के माध्यम से ही आते हैं। एक सफल नर्तक की दृष्टि अपने नृत्य द्वारा समाज को एक नई दिशा प्रदान करने की रहती है, अतः वह अपने नृत्य में इसी प्रकार के साहित्य का समावेश करता है। कथक में पौराणिक कथानकों को आधार बनाकर प्रस्तुति की जाती है।
लास्ट 1 मिनट।
वंदना और देवी देवताओं की स्तुति से संबंधित श्लोक व प्रार्थना तो हर शास्त्रीय नृत्य का प्रमुख कलेवर है ही। हिंदी साहित्य में काव्य के दृश्य और काव्य 2 भेद बताए हैं। श्रव्य काव्य के लिए अर्थों की अभिव्यक्ति के लिए शास्त्र में 3 प्रकार की शब्द शक्तियाँ बताई हैं, जैसे अभिधा, लक्षणा और व्यंजना। एक नृत्य में भी कलाकार किसी काव्य रचना को लेकर उसके एक एक शब्द को अलग अलग प्रकार से अभिनय द्वारा प्रस्तुत करने का प्रयत्न करता है। जैसा कि हम सभी को ज्ञात है कि ठुमरी में किस तरह से विभिन्न अंगों के द्वारा एक ही लाइन पर अभिनय प्रस्तुत किया जाता है। यह क्रमशः अभिधा से लेकर व्यंजना तक का सफ़र होता है और एक कलाकार तभी सफल माना जाता है जब वह इन तीनों शब्द शक्तियों का प्रयोग अपने नृत्य में करता है। बिना साहित्य नृत्य की कल्पना भी बेमानी है। नृत्य में साहित्य के अनेक तत्व जैसे रस, भाव और अभिनय, काव्य और उसके भेद, नायक नायिका भेद आदि समाविष्ट रहते हैं। बिना साहित्यिक ज्ञान एक नर्तक प्राणविहीन मनुष्य के समान है। जैसा कि हम देखते हैं संगीत नृत्य का अनुसरण करता है। नृत्य के साथ जब साहित्य व संगीत जुड़ते हैं तब जाकर ही रसानुभूति होती है। जिस प्रकार ब्रह्मा विष्णु महेश का नाम एक साथ लिया जाता है, गंगा जमुना सरस्वती का संगम है, लक्ष्मी सरस्वती व शक्ति का मेल है, उसी प्रकार नृत्य संगीत व साहित्य की त्रिवेणी है। और जब यह त्रिवेणी अपने पूर्ण वेग से प्रवाहित होती है तभी रस एवं आनंद की अनुभूति संभव है, जो ब्रह्म ज्ञान के समान है, जिसका प्रभाव अस्थायी नहीं वरन अस्थायी होता है। नमस्कार। मैं आपके सामने एक छोटी सी प्रस्तुति करना चाहती हूँ, जिसका है गोपियों ने कृष्ण को एक दिन पकड़ लिया और कहने लगी कि आज तो मुझे अपनी मुरली दे दो और हम बजाएंगे और आप हम आपके सब वस्त्र और आभूषण ग्रहण करेंगे और आप हमारी तरह ही दही बेचने के लिए जाओ। तो एक बहुत छोटा सा सूरदास जी का प्रसिद्ध भजन।
श्याम तोरी मुरली नेक बजाऊं, श्याम तोरी मुरली नेक बजाऊं, श्याम तोरी मुरली नेक बजाऊं। जोई जोई तान भरो मुरली में, जोई जोई तान, जोई जोई तान भरो मुरली में, सोई सोई गाय सुनाऊं, सोई सोई गाय सुनाऊं। मुरली नेक बजाऊं, श्याम तोरी मुरली नेक बजाऊं। हमरी बेदिया तुम ही लगाओ, हमरी बेदिया तुम ही लगाओ, मैं सिर मुकुट धराऊं, मैं सिर मुकुट धराऊं। हमरे भूषण तुम सब पहिरो, हमरे भूषण तुम सब पहिरो, मैं तुम्हारे सब पाऊं, मैं तुम्हारे सब पाऊं। मुरली नेक बजाऊं, श्याम तोरी मुरली नेक बजाऊं। तुम्हारे सिर माखन की मटकी, तुम्हारे सिर माखन की मटकी, मैं मिली ग्वाल लुटाऊं, मैं मिली ग्वाल लुटाऊं।
We have Prerna Agarwal honoring Pandit Nandkishore Kapote, sir.
Good evening, everyone. This is Priyanka Bharade from Hyderabad, presenting you the topic, Realizing Satyam Shivam Sundaram through Natya Shastra. So if we go about the words Satyam Shivam Sundaram, they appear to be very simple 3 words, but they carry a huge message behind them. Let's see what it is. So first of all, Satyam Shivam Sundaram is a small and crisp form of message which gives the information about the reality and the spiritual reality that is hidden behind the Moha and Maya. This Satyam Shivam Sundaram can be seen probably from Taittiriya Upanishad, which is the first time it was referenced. And from then we have been seeing this in a lot of Upanishads, text and scriptures later on after the Vedic period. So let's understand what these 3 words actually mean. Starting with Satyam, so we think that Satyam is truth. But what exactly is being referred here? Is it just saying the truth always in your life, or is there something more behind that? So the truth without any projection of the mind or opinion. This is the extra part that we tend to miss. So one particular situation can be perceived in 4 different ways by 4 different people, depending on their mindset, depending on their opinions. But the truth is beyond all those mindsets, all those opinions, and that is what is getting referenced here as Satyam. Coming to the Shivam, it is not just about Lord Shiva, but a subtler aspect of Lord Shiva, which is being the divine, good, pure, generous, and harmless in the entire universe. So anywhere you feel that something pure, something divine is present, that is the presence of Shivam. So Shivam, we think that Shiva is just one Jatadhari with Nagendra, and we think he has a Chandra on his head. So we confine him to the physical appearance. But actually, Shiva is nothing but the auspiciousness. And coming to the 3rd point, which is Sundaram. It is not just beauty, but ethereal beauty. Beauty behind what you are actually seeing. For example, one particular situation can seem disgusting for someone, but at the same time, if it is a life-saving situation for somebody else, it becomes a very beautiful experience. So Sundaram here is referenced from the aspect of the beauty of a whole instead of one particular aspect of life. So in whole, if you see Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram is nothing but the ethereal truth, the eternal truth, which is beyond our logic, beyond our explanations, beyond our concepts in mind, which denotes the presence of auspiciousness, which is Shivam, and as a result, you can experience the aesthetics behind it through Sundaram. So I wouldn't say that Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram are 3 different parts, but it is the same thing being referenced through different words. The same Satya is nothing but Shiva, and the same Shiva is nothing but Sundaram. So one example I would like to use here is fire and heat. Will we ever be able to separate them? So can we say that fire and heat are 2 separate commodities? How fire and heat are inseparable, yet they have their own substantial explanation. Okay, this is fire and this is heat, but yet they are inseparable. Similarly, the Shiva and Shakti form this inseparable bond in this universe, through which ultimately the essence of Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram is understood. Now this is through the philosophical aspects. Now I, being a dancer, I thought, why not utilize my Natya Shastra to explain this to a normal audience through dance and drama. So in Natya Shastra, we can see the origin of dance. Whoever has written the exams on origin of dance, we have read this shlokam, Sarva Shastra Sampannam, Sarva Shilpa Pradarshakam, Natyakyam Panchamam Vedam, Setihasam Karomiham. All the essence of the Shastras, Vedas, Scriptures, Upanishads, what we are finding it so difficult to get and even understand. Even if we have loads of books at home, it's so difficult to comprehend. But Natya Shastra has taken that essence and given us in a very beautiful, very aesthetic way of presentation through dance and drama. In fact, Natya Shastra was created to educate the masses about the dharma. Instead of sitting and telling a child about what is good and bad, we just show them one episode from Mahabharata, and the child grasps much more better through this presentation. So that is what Natya Shastra does. And the most important part of Natya Shastra, which is the Chaturvidha Abhinayam, it is the tool which helps us really take the message through Abhinaya from the 4 types. And now let us see how this Natya Shastra helps us to understand Satyam Shivam Sundaram in a better way. Starting with Satyam, we understood that it is the truth beyond our comprehension, beyond our mind and intellect. So if we take the Patra concept from Natya Shastra, all the dancers are supposed to visualize themselves as Patra. Patra means a container which should be able to hold milk, poison, any tasty item, or anything very ugly also. So as a dancer, we are supposed to hold that character, though we are not that character in the natural sense. But if we are as Ravanasura on stage, our own qualities should be missing. That is the peak of artist presentation. So through this Patra concept, what we can see here is looking at the characters beyond our opinions, beyond our comprehension, and seeing them as they are. This, when you put it in parallel to Satyam Shivam Sundaram, it becomes an instrument to understand the Satya of the universe. Coming to the Shivam, we have another shloka for Natya Shastra, which is Rig Yajur Sama Vedabhyo Vedachadharvana Kramat Patyamcha Abhinayam Geetam Rasa Sangraha Padmaja. So literature, music, abhinaya, rasa, all these have been taken from one of the 4 Vedas. And all the Vedas, if you see it, the essence of Vedas is trying to show the auspiciousness throughout the universe and the different ways to attain it. So when Natya Shastra is coming from the 4 Vedas itself, so how is it not showing the Shivam of the universe? It is directly coming from the Shivam, which is auspiciousness. And one very striking feature of classical dances, all the dances that follow the Natya Shastra, is some or the other point of time, we will feel that divine auspiciousness present on stage. And that comes through the intricate training of Natya Shastra. And at the end, I would like to discuss about the Sundaram, which is the beauty. So the Natya Shastra talks about the rasa theory, which is everybody of us have bhavas, sthayi bhavas, which is present inside us. We just require a vibhava, some situation or some circumstance which arouses this bhava in us, and the anubhavas, which are the symptoms. Like when we are trying to show an episode.
Last 1 minute.
Yeah. When we are trying to show an episode where we are seeing something very ugly or something very ferocious, we have to get those sweat drops on our forehead. Our face has to become pale. So all these are the symptoms of the bhava being aroused. And once that reaches the audience, it is converted into rasa. So the whole process, which is called as rasa nishpatti, entire thing what here is referenced is beauty is not just Sringara rasa or Hasya rasa. Beauty is all the Navarasas, which is again Satyam Shivam Sundaram Sundaram. So the beauty as a whole, when we understand, that is very easy for an artist to comprehend, because we go through so many emotions as artists on stage. Only then the production is successful. If I stick to my favorite rasa nishpati is never possible. So with this, I found that Natya Shastra is very, very helpful to understand the concept of Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Given in this time, I tried to put as much as possible, but there's a lot to it. And all these points that I have discussed now, I would like to present through one presentation of Tyagaraja Kirtana, Pantuvarali Ragam, Rupakatalam. Shambho Mahadeva.
I kindly request Dr. Swati ma'am to felicitate Priyanka Barde.
So while I'm doing that, just a small introduction to my topic. My topic is concept of Nayaka in Natya Shastra and post-Natya Shastra texts. I'm a male Bharatanatyam dancer, and for dancers like me, to search for compositions with the male voice in first person is always a challenge. So my research has consistently been finding the male voice, whether it is possible to show the male expressing one's own identity. So today I'm going to cover a part of my research which discusses the whole concept of Nayak, or the male protagonist, which evolved from the Natya Shastra to the post-Natya Shastra text, and what have been prominent positions, standpoints, and how certain concepts changed and how certain concepts evolved to what they are now. So Bharata talks about Nayaka in the 34th chapter in the voluminous Natya Shastra. This particular chapter discusses Prakriti, or human nature. He goes on to discuss different types of Prakriti, or human nature, which is the Uttam, Madhyam, and Adham. the superior, middling, and the inferior. Uttam, Madhyam, and Adham. In this particular chapter, Bharata, while discussing the classifications, he divides them into, on the basis of dramatis personae, which is the Dhirodatta, Dhirolalita, Dhira Prashanta, and Dhirodhata. On the basis of dramatis personae, as in when the lead character is either brave and magnanimous, Dhirodatta, Dhiralalita, brave and sporty, Dhirodhata or Dhirodhata, which is brave and aggressive, and Dhira Prashanta. Here, while Bharata is talking about these 4 classifications, he takes great care to make it clear that they are very well defined and specific. He does not discuss the qualities or gunas, he just lists them. But while he has listed them, he has kind of drawn a parameter where he says that only gods can be Dhirodatta, kings can be Dhira Lalita, general of the army can be Dhirodatta, or he could be a minister, and the Brahmana or Vaishya could be Dhira Prashanta. So basically, he classifies the Nayaka, the 4 types, as per the Varna system. Now that's very interesting. He's talking about it in the Prakriti Adhyaya, but he regards the Varna system as the basis for classification of these Nayakas. Now, in the medieval texts, we realize that a lot of classification has been done with regards to Shringara Nayakas. This is absent in the Natya Shastra. But it is not altogether absent. It's very much present in the Vaishika Adhyaya, where all these classifications are explored in terms of Vaishika. Who is a Vaishika? A Vaishika is a person who associates oneself with the courtesans or the Kanikas, which means he has to impress, he has to have certain flamboyant qualities that gives him the edge to impress women. The same classification has been done with regards to Vaishika when it comes to Chatura, Uttama, Madhyama, Adhama, Sampravriddhaka. What are these classifications? These classifications are primarily based on how he appeases the woman. So in a patriarchal structure like a patriarchal structure of the Natya Shastra and so on in the medieval texts too, patriarchy obviously dominates, and therefore it is the man who is going to appease the angry woman. Why is the woman angry? Because it is presumed that the man might be most probably disloyal. If that disloyalty is magnanimously bigger, the anger is more. Then what does the man need to do to appease the woman? And on the basis of his qualities to appease the woman, the Vaishika Adhyaya expounds on various ways in which this Vaishika can impress the woman. My focus then would shift to the next text, which is the Agni Purana. And in the Agni Purana itself, we find that the Shringara Nayakas have been listed, which means this was not present in the 1st century BC texts. It is now present in Agni Purana of 900 AD. By that time itself, the coining of the terms and terminologies was definitely specified. But other than this, Agni Purana really doesn't have any relevance because it does not expound or explain these concepts ever. Then comes the 2 texts which I have not taken in the PPT deliberately because they don't really stand very relevant. That is Rudrata's Kavyalankara and Rudrata's Shringara Tilaka. They are both texts of 9th century. What is their relevance? Well, Rudrata's Kavyalankara exactly emulates Agni Purana's classifications. Both these classifications, the Shringara, Anukula, Dakshina, Shatha, and Drishta, and the other 4 as per the dramatis personae, as per the play, have been listed. What is very interesting, however, in Kavyalankara is there are 2 very important verses come which describe the Shringara Nayakas which you cannot classify as per these. One is a man who is involved in an extramarital affair with a married woman, and the other is a man who praises the Mugdha Nayika. Mugdha Nayika, as we know, the one who is just about adolescent and is might be experiencing the first few dewdrops of love, or has not experienced it and she is not in youth. These 2 are verses which get detailed in Kavyalankara. Subsequently, Rudrata, who has written Shringara Tilaka, which specifically focuses on the aspects of Shringara, he repeats the same classifications, but the beauty of that text is that examples, representative examples in the form of verses, have been given to expound these Nayaka and Nayika. Also, one more very important point here is a particular example of Vipralamba Shringara becomes very interesting, where he shows or he describes the widower. What do you mean by widower? A Nayaka who has lost his wife or lover to death, and he describes his Nayika who's just about to be lit on the pyre. Now, these are some unusual examples which we come across in Shringara Tilaka of Rudrata. My focus for this paper would be Dhananjaya's Dasharupaka, not in terms of classification, but more in terms of how Dhananjaya deals with the topic of one, Dhirodhata. Dhirodhata, as been described by Bharata, is Dhira plus Uddhata, that is aggressive by nature. But from Dhananjaya's Dasharupaka, we realize that Pratinayaka, or the villain, has been introduced. Till now, we did not have the concept of villain. It is from Dhananjaya's Dasharupaka that we actually get to know that there is a concept of a villain, and the villain has been christened as a Pratinayaka. And one more interesting aspect is the Dhirodhata, while describing the gunas or the qualities of the Dhirodhata, who is a Nayaka, mostly all negative qualities have been laid down. So, by Dasharupaka's time, which is around 11th century, the Dhirodhata had become with negative shades, which was not there in the Natya Shastra. That is one point. The second point which Dasharupaka does is it proposes a theory, and it refutes that theory in its own text. It proposes a theory where it says, what if we assume that all these Dhirodhata, Dhira Lalita, Dhira Prashanta, Dhirodhata are Avastha Vedas? Can they be Avastha Vedas? That is, if Rama is Dhirodhata Nayaka, can Rama be a Dhirodhata when he kills Vali? Because he stealthily kills Vali. He does not openly kill Vali. So he conspires. So he's not Dhirodhata there. So could we have, on the basis of that, what I am trying to propose also is, could we have a concept where there could be a Sthai Nayaka and there could be a Vyabhichari Nayaka? Sthai Nayaka is Dhirodhata, but in a context of Rama killing or destroying Vali, he would become a Vyabhichari Dhirodhata. But this theory, this particular theory of having Avastha Bheda is kind of refuted in the parampara of Khandana Mandana, where Dhananjaya proposes an idea, and the commentary done by Dhanika, he says, sorry, this theory cannot be applicable. It is very interesting that by 13th century, when we have, 13th, 14th century, when we have Saraswati Kanthabharana and Shringara Prakasha of Bhoja, we realize that this theory comes back again. We realize that Bhoja says that we can have Avastha Bhedas. All these classifications can work as Avastha Bhedas. Sorry. So, a small seed of Nayaka becomes a big banyan tree by the time of Bhoja Saraswati Kanthabharana. We have the classifications as per Pradhanya, or in a plot, who is important? Is the Nayaka important? If not, then who is the second important person? The Pratinayaka, the villain? Who is the next important character? The Upanayaka and the Anunayaka. If you look at Indian films, you have these categorizations in the films of the 1950s and 60s which follow this kind of a casting. Then on the basis of Prakriti, of course, like laid down by Bharata.
Last 1 minute.
Yes. Guna, Bharya, which is whether he is monogamous or he has many wives. And of course, the Marga and the Shringara aspect. But I'm coming to the final conclusion of my paper, which will clearly highlight what exactly I have arrived at. The conclusion which we can derive from the span and classification of Nayakas in Natya Shastra and post-Natya Shastra texts are as follows. 1. From the macro study of this concept of Nayaka, we see gradual progression towards a micro study in the classification of Nayaka, resulting in the increase in the number of Nayakas. 2. The interpretations of definitions have certainly changed. The Shringara Nayakas have been interpreted both on the level of monogamy, polygamy, and the treatment of the Nayika by the Nayaka individually or with each other. 3. The interpretations for some of the Dhira Nayakas has also changed. That is, Bharata says Dhirodhata is only aggressive, but later mostly negative attributes become a hallmark of Dhirodhata. And 4. It seems for Bharata the concept of Dhira Nayaka is more specific and well outlined, since he has attached varna or status to it. But for some authors like Bhoja, it becomes an absolute fluid and intermingling concept because they regard it as avastha bhedas. Thank you.
On the light, please.
Thought. Thai, ta thai, ta thai, thai, ta thai, ta thai, ta ta ta. Di na, di na, di na, di na, di na, di na. Dig da dig dig thai, dig da dig dig thai, dig da dig dig thai, ta thai. Amar. Di na, 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 di na. Ta thai tat, a thai tat, ta thai tat. Thai, 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 ta, ta, ta. Di, na, di, na, di, na. सादा टुकड़ा. tat, tat, dig da, dig dig thai, ta, thai, dig da, dig dig thai, ta, thai. Dig da dig dig thai, ta thai, ta thai, ta thai. Di na, di na, di na, di na, di na. सादा टुकड़ा. Tat tat, dig da dig dig, dig da dig dig, tat tat, dig da dig dig, dig da dig dig, tat tat, dig da dig dig, dig da dig, tat tat. Thai, thai, kran, ta, ta, dig da dig dig thai, ta, thai, dig da dig dig thai, ta, thai, dig da dig dig thai, ta, thai. Di na, di na, चक्र का टुकड़ा. tat dig da dig dig tat tat dig da dig dig tat 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 dig da dig dig tai tat dig da dig dig tat tat dig da tat 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 dig da dig dig tai tat dig da dig dig tat tat dig da tat 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 dig da dig dig tai. Di na di na di na di na di na di ना तत्कर की बाट दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा दिग दिग तात 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 दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा दिग दिग तात तात दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा तात तात दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा तात तात दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा तात दिगदा दिग दिग तात दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा तात दिगदा दिग दिग तात दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा तात दिगदा दिग दिग तात दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा तात दिगदा दिग दिग तात दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा दिगदा दिग दिग तात तात दिगदा दिग दिग तात 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 दिगदा दिग दिग तात तात दिगदा दिग दिग तात 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 दिगदा दिग दिग तात तात दिगदा दिग दिग तात 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 दिगदा दिग दिग तात तात दिगदा दिग दिग तात 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 दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा दिग दिग दिगदा दिग दिग ताई Tig da dig dig tai, tig da dig dig tai, tig da dig dig tai. Tig da dig dig, tig da dig dig, tig da dig dig tai. Tig da dig dig tai, tig da dig dig tai, tig da dig dig tai. Tig da dig dig, tig da dig dig, tig da dig dig tai. Tig da dig dig tai, tig da dig dig tai, tig da dig dig tai.
My topic for today is exploring Tandav in the Bhagavad Puran. The Bhagavad Puran is the crown jewel in the pantheon of 18 Mahapurans and is attributed to sage Vyasa. It is said that Narad inspired him to create the equivalent of a fifth Veda, a text that discusses a wide range of topics, including cosmology, astronomy, geography, legend, music, and dance. A critical edition of the Bhagavad Puran was prepared and published by the B.J. Institute of Learning and Research, Ahmedabad, for which editors used more than 30 manuscripts. The oldest one is dated 1124 AD. As early as 1030 AD, the name of the Bhagavad was given to El-Biruni in a list of authentic Purans. Later, the 15th century Bhakti master, Vallabhacharya, included the Bhagavad Puran as one of his proofs of knowledge in Indian epistemology, on which he based his metaphysical thought. The Bhagavad Puran comes at a time period when music and dance are free from Persian influence. It is also a time when music was integrated, that is, before it branched into North-South music traditions. Today, the Bhagavad Puran still holds its status as a sacred scripture. The narratives of the Bhagavad Puran are often used as the subject of the repertoire of many Indian classical dance forms. Kapila Vatsyayan, in her book Indian Classical Dances, states, thematically, many dance styles revolved around stories narrated in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The dance forms prescribe to the basic principles of the tradition of the Natya Shastra. The Natya Shastra is a Sanskrit treatise on the performing arts attributed to sage Bharata Muni. Scholars date its complete compilation as between 200 BC, 200 AD, or 500 BC, 500 AD. Now, this paper examines Tandav as defined in the Natya Shastra in light of the Bhagavad Puran. It shows how the Tandav viewpoint in the Bhagavad Puran is in keeping with the Natya Shastric tradition. Tandav is described in the Natya Shastra in chapter 4 under the description of class dance. There are two creation stories of Tandav. The first is that Shiva was pleased with sage Bharata's efforts in presenting a drama and asked him to incorporate the Angharas and Karanas that Shiva had created. He asked his Gana Tandu to teach Bharata, and hence the dance was called Tandav. This is described in chapter 4, verse 265. The second creation story of Tandav is mentioned by Abhinav Guptacharya in his commentary on the Natya Shastra. He quotes Kohal when he states that while watching the evening dance of Shiva, Narada was so filled with devotion that he started singing and enacting the Tripurada. And Shiv was pleased with those movements of Narad's Abhinay, and he asked his Gana Tandu to collect them all and add them to the Tandav class dance. Now, Tandav in the Bhagavad Puran, there are a total of 4 verses that I have been able to find that mention the word Tandav in the Bhagavad Puran. 3 of them are in the 10th canto and 1 in the 11th canto. Now, 4 of these shlokas in total correspond with 6 large ideas about the Swarup of Tandav in the Natya Shastra. Let's look at each one of these in the following exposition. Tandav Angaras are Udat, or energetic in nature. This is in chapter 4, verse 320. In the Bhagavad Puran, the very first shlok that mentions Tandav is the shloka about Krishna dancing on Kaliya's head.
Your last 1 minute.
Shloka 10, 1630, where it states Krishna's wonderful, powerful Tandav trampled and broke all of Kaliya's 1,000 hoods. Tandav here is used for energetic, vigorous style of dance. Let's look at the second large idea. There are total 6, but I haven't been given the time. Tandav is danced by Shiva, and
This is in chapter 4, verse 13. Dr. Puru Dadij in his essay on Tandav mentions Natvar Krishna's time of the Nitya Ras is specified as Madhyaratri, whilst Natraj Shiva's time of dance, Nitya Tandav, is specified as Sandhyakal. In the Bhagavad Puran, in 1062-4, Shiva dances the Tandav dance, and this matches with the Natya Shastric tradition. Tandav to the accompaniment of musical instruments. Natya Shastra, chapter 4, verse 3-65 states, Tandu, in his turn, made out of them dance together with songs and instrumental music. And hence this Abhinav Guptacharya's commentary also follows that songs set to tal and laya, along with musical instruments, are used in conjunction with nritya, and this is defined as Tandav. In the Bhagavad Puran, we have 2 shlokas that are related to Tandav and musical instruments, putting the two together. 1062-4 states, Banasur played musical instruments with his 1,000 hands for Shiva as he danced his Tandav. 15th century Bhakti master Vallabhacharya comments that the musical instruments that Bana played were to increase the Utsah Bhav and to please and satisfy Shiva. Bhagavad Puran 1070-19 actually lists out the names of the various musical instruments that were played in the instance of Tandav dance. These are Mridang, Veena, Muraja drum, flute, cymbals for tal, and conch shells. In conclusion, the Bhagavad Puran has been a significant text for centuries, contributing greatly to Indian philosophy and religion. One of the interesting aspects of this text is its mention of the word Tandav in 4 different verses. Exploring the Tandav in the Bhagavad Puran has revealed that it is an extension of the concept of Tandav as described in the Natya Shastra, the ancient treatise on performing arts, where we have collated 6 large ideas of the Natya Shastra with Tandav in the Bhagavad Puran. The concept of Tandav is still intact in the Bhagavad Puran despite the vast gap in the time period of both the texts. This makes the Bhagavad Puran a likely candidate to be designated as a stepping stone treatise to understanding the history of dance. Thank you for your time.
नमस्कार. माझा विषय आहे नृत्य प्रस्तुतीमध्ये नवीन दृष्टिकोन आणि शिक्षणशास्त्र भारतीय शास्त्रीय नृत्यशैलीच्या दृष्टिकोनातून. भारतामध्ये संगीत कलेला अनन्यसाधारण महत्त्व दिले गेलेले आहे. कोणत्याही कलेचे शिक्षण घेण्याचे ठरवल्यास ते कशासाठी, त्याचे फायदे तोटे काय, ह्याचे संपूर्ण चित्र विद्यार्थ्यांसमोर असणे आवश्यक असते. शिक्षण कार्याच्या प्रक्रियेचे विधिवत अध्ययन म्हणजे शिक्षाशास्त्र म्हणजे शिक्षणशास्त्र. शिक्षण ही एक सजीव आणि गतिशील प्रक्रिया आहे. यामध्ये अध्यापक आणि विद्यार्थी यांच्यात होणारी अंतर्गत क्रिया कोणत्या तरी एका विशिष्ट ध्येयाकडे जात असते. बदलत्या काळाबरोबर संपूर्ण शिक्षणचक्र गतिशील झाल्याने या गतिशीलतेचे काही चांगले वाईट परिणाम संगीत शिक्षणावर सुद्धा झाले. गायन, वादन, नर्तन या 3ही कलांचा संगीत या व्याख्येमध्ये समावेश होतो. यातील नृत्यामुळे शास्त्र, अवकाश व कालव्याप्तीची संकल्पना, अवकाशाच्या त्रिमिती पेलण्याचा व निभावण्याचा विचार, आकृतिबंध, रेखा, सौंदर्य यांचा अभ्यास केला जातो. आजकालच्या बदलत चाललेल्या सामाजिक, राजकीय, आर्थिक परिस्थितीतही शास्त्रीय नृत्य शिक्षणाविषयी समाजामध्ये एक वेगळे स्थान आहे. कलेच्या अध्ययनाने प्रत्येक गोष्टीकडे बघण्याचा कलाकाराचा दृष्टिकोन वेगळा असतो. शिक्षणशास्त्र. सुरुवातीच्या काळात कुटुंब हे शिक्षणाचे केंद्र असून आईवडील हे मुलांचे गुरु होते. काळाच्या प्रवाहाबरोबर शिक्षण देणाऱ्या वेगळ्या यंत्रणेची गरज भासू लागली. शिक्षण म्हणजे ज्ञान, कौशल्य व अभिवृत्ती यांचे संपादन असल्याने तत्त्ववेत्यांनी शिक्षणविषयक सिद्धांत मांडण्याचे प्रयत्न केले. सुरुवातीच्या काळात शिक्षण ही एक कला मानली जात असे. तथापि शास्त्राच्या प्रगतीचा शिक्षणविषयक विचारांवर प्रभाव पडून शिक्षण हे कलेबरोबर एक शास्त्रही आहे असे मानण्यात येऊ लागले. शास्त्रीय नृत्यशैलींचा प्रमुख आधार ग्रंथ आणि नृत्य प्रस्तुतीचा नवीन दृष्टिकोन. भारतीय शास्त्रीय नृत्यशैलींचे भारतीय शास्त्रीय नृत्यशैलींचे शिक्षण हे मुळातच अतिप्राचीन ग्रंथांचा अभ्यास आणि त्यातील मूलभूत तत्वांचा आधार घेऊन सुरू होते. सर्व शास्त्रीय नृत्यशैलींचा प्रमुख आधारग्रंथ म्हणून ओळखला जाणारा अतिप्राचीन ग्रंथ म्हणजेच आचार्य भरतमुनी यांनी रचलेला नाट्यशास्त्र. नाट्यशास्त्रामध्ये असं म्हटलं आहे, न तत् ज्ञानम न तत् शिल्पम न सा विद्या न सा कला नासव योगो न तत्कर्म नाट्येस्मिन् यन्न दृश्यते. असे कोणतेही ज्ञान, शिल्प, विद्या, कला किंवा योग नाही ज्यामध्ये नाट्य नाही. काळाच्या बदलत चाललेल्या प्रवाहाचा आणि तंत्रज्ञानाच्या प्रगतीचा परिणाम शास्त्रीय नृत्यशैलींवरही निश्चितच झाला. तरी प्राचीन विद्वान आचार्यांनी हजारो वर्षांपूर्वी लिहून ठेवलेले तत्त्वज्ञान हे आजच्या काळातही परिणामकारक आहे, कारण विद्वान आचार्यांनी भविष्याचा विचार करून लिहिलेले हे तत्त्वज्ञान आहे. व्याकरणकार पाणिनी असे म्हणतात की शास्त्रात रूढीय बलियसी. शास्त्र आणि रूढी परंपरा यांच्यामध्ये जर भांडण झालं तर रूढी म्हणजेच परंपरेला सगळ्यात महत्त्वाचा जास्त मान द्यावा. त्यामुळे परंपरेसमोर झुकणे हे महत्त्वाचे आहे, कारण परिवर्तन ही जीवन आहे. परंपरा ही नेहमी बदलत असते, हळूहळू परंपरेमध्ये परिवर्तन होत असते आणि शास्त्र हे तसेच राहते. अशा बदलत जाणाऱ्या परंपरेची कास धरून आणि शास्त्राचा आधार घेऊन नृत्यशैली प्रस्तुतीमध्ये नवीन बदल करणे इष्ट आहे. नृत्य संरचना. नृत्य प्रस्तुतीमध्ये नवीन दृष्टिकोनाचा विचार करताना अनेक दिग्गज आचार्यांनी केलेल्या कलाकृतींचे दाखले देता येतील. जसे आचार्य पार्वती कुमार यांनी अभिनय दर्पण या ग्रंथातील 324 लोकांचे नृत्य मंचन केले. हा प्रयोग निश्चितच असामान्य असून परंपरेची कास धरून केलेला असल्याने त्याला शिक्षणशास्त्राचा भक्कम पाया आहे. डॉक्टर संध्याताई पुरेच्या या विश्वातील एकमेव नर्तिका आहेत ज्या ह्या 324 लोकांचे मंचावर सादरीकरण करतात. प्रायोगिक स्वरूपाच्या नृत्यरचना करताना समाज प्रबोधनाचे कार्य करणेही शक्य आहे. जसे एड्ससारखा रोगबद्दलची जनजागृती करण्यासाठी संभोग शृंगार आणि विप्रलंब शृंगार हे नायक नायिकांचे वेगवेगळे शृंगार घेऊन ते नृत्यातून प्रस्तुत करून लोकांपर्यंत हा संदेश पोहोचवता येणे शक्य होते. केरोसिनचा काळा बाजार दाखवण्यासाठी रौद्र रसाचा आधार घेऊन नृत्य प्रस्तुतीतून हा संदेश दिला जातो. शालेय शिक्षण घेणाऱ्या विद्यार्थ्यांना कविता चांगल्या प्रकारे याव्यात म्हणून कवितांवर सुद्धा नृत्य प्रस्तुतीचा प्रयोग केला गेला आहे. नृत्य प्रस्तुतीमध्ये नवीन विचार करण्याच्या दृष्टीने एखाद्या व्यक्तीचा जीवनपटसुद्धा नृत्यातून दाखवण्याचे प्रयत्न केले गेले आहेत. एका शास्त्रीय नृत्य प्रस्तुतीमध्ये एक ओडिसी जी नृत्य प्रस्तुती होती त्याच्या साथीसाठी लोकसंगीताचा वापर केला होता, परंतु साथीसाठी जी वाद्य वापरली होती ती पारंपरिकच होती आणि गाण्याच्यामध्ये वापरलेल्या संगीताचे प्रकार हे ओडिसी नृत्यावरच आधारित होते. म्हणजेच वाद्य आणि संगीताच्या बोलांचा वापर करून शास्त्राचा उत्तम प्रकारे आधार घेऊन लोकसंगीताचा वापर करून नृत्याला नवीन साथ चढवण्याचा हा एक उत्कृष्ट प्रयोग होता. तसेच आदरणीय गुरु कुमुदिनी लाखिया यांनीसुद्धा कथक नृत्यशैलीमध्ये अनेक प्रयोगात्मक बदल घडवून आणले. महाराष्ट्रातील सुप्रसिद्ध कथक गुरु पंडिता रोहिणीताई भाटे यांनी देखील नृत्य प्रवासाच्या काळाच्या पलीकडे विचार करून असंख्य नवनवीन प्रयोगात्मक रचना केल्या. सतत अभ्यास आणि परिश्रम यांचा उत्तम आदर्श असलेल्या रोहिणीताईंनी अनेक नवीन संकल्पना घेऊन कथक नृत्यामध्ये नवनवीन नृत्य संरचना केल्या. वरील अनेक उदाहरणावरून एक गोष्ट लक्षात येते की काळानुरूप कलेमध्ये सुद्धा परिवर्तन होत असते. अनेक नृत्यरचना ह्या प्रायोगिक स्वरूपात केल्या गेल्या असल्या तरी त्यांच्या नृत्य प्रस्तुतीचा मुख्य आधार हा शास्त्रीय ग्रंथांचा आणि त्यातील तत्वांचाच आहे. म्हणजेच नवनवीन प्रयोग करताना शास्त्राचा भक्कम आधार घेतला तर येणाऱ्या शैक्षणिक प्रगतीच्या दृष्टीने ते निश्चितच फायद्याचे ठरेल. आहार्य अभिनय आणि नवीन दृष्टिकोन. शास्त्रीय नृत्यामध्ये आहार्य अभिनयाला विशेष महत्त्व आहे. एखादी प्रयोगात्मक रचना प्रस्तुत करताना जर वेशभूषा त्याला साजेशी असेल तर ती नृत्यप्रस्तुती खुलून दिसते. वेशभूषा आणि दागिने यांचा विचार करताना त्यामध्ये शास्त्रीय नृत्याचे प्रातिनिधिक स्वरूपात जर समावेश असला तर ती जास्त खुलून दिसेल. कथक नृत्यामधील घराणी यामधला नवीन दृष्टिकोनाचा विचार करताना असे लक्षात येते की जेव्हा आपण जन्माला येतो तेव्हा आपण कोणाच्या घरात जन्म घ्यावा हे आपल्या हातात नसते. त्याचप्रमाणे आपल्याला एखादी नृत्यशैली शिकताना कोणत्या विशिष्ट घराण्याचीच नृत्यशैली शिकता येईल का हे अनेक वेगवेगळ्या परिस्थितींवर अवलंबून असते. कथक नृत्याच्या घराण्यांच्या विषयामध्ये सुद्धा नवीन दृष्टिकोन आणणे इष्ट आहे. प्रत्येक घराण्याची विशेषता समजून घेऊन त्यातून आपल्या नृत्य प्रस्तुतीमध्ये कोणत्या गोष्टींचा समावेश करावा हे प्रत्येक नर्तकाला ठरवता आले पाहिजे. एखाद्या घराण्याची खास गोष्ट प्रस्तुत करताना ती आपल्या नृत्य प्रस्तुतीला शोभून दिसते आहे का नाही याचा विचार महत्त्वाचा आहे. प्रत्येक घराण्याचा मान आणि मर्यादा राखून आज जागतिक पातळीवर पोचलेल्या आपल्या नृत्यकलेला घराण्यांच्या दृष्टिकोनातून सर्वसमावेशक बनवणं जास्त महत्त्वाचं आहे. अनेक दिग्गज नर्तक असे आहेत ज्यांनी स्वतःची अशी खास शैली निर्माण केली आहे. ज्यांनी कोणत्या विशिष्ट घराण्याचे शिक्षण घेतलेले नसले तरीही त्यांचे शिष्य हे त्यांची शैली पुढे नेण्याचे कार्य करीत आहेत. हा घराण्यांच्या बाबतीतला एक नवीन दृष्टिकोन असू शकतो. शास्त्रीय नृत्य एक संकीर्ण कला आहे. शास्त्रीय नृत्य परंपरा हे संकीर्ण आहेत, म्हणजेच त्यांना वाद्यांची भरभक्कम साथ महत्त्वाची असते. पारंपरिक वाद्यांच्या बरोबरीने काही इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वाद्य तसेच पाश्चात्य वाद्यांचा समावेश करून त्यांना खुलवता येते.
युअर टाइम अप.
वरील अनेक उदाहरणावरून असे लक्षात येते की शास्त्रीय नृत्य प्रस्तुती, शास्त्राचा आधार, परंपरेची कास आणि नवीन दृष्टिकोन या सगळ्यांचा समतोल नृत्य प्रस्तुतीमध्ये असणे ही प्रत्येक कलाकाराची जबाबदारी आहे. धन्यवाद.
नमस्कार सभी गुरुजनों को और गुणीजनों को मेरा सादर प्रणाम. मेरा जो टॉपिक है आज का, सोशल रिलेवेंस ऑफ इंडियन क्लासिकल डांस, उस टॉपिक में जो मैंने चूज़ किया है टॉपिक, वो चूज़ किया है कि कथक नृत्य में. दादा एक मिनट आइए प्लीज़. ये स्लाइड किया हुआ है आपने क्या? नहीं स्लाइड मत करिए, मुझे एक एक करके वो करना है. कथक नृत्य में आधुनिकता कितनी सही. आज हम लोग जो भी यहाँ पे डांसर्स हैं, कथक नर्तक हैं, नर्तकियाँ हैं, या भरतनाट्यम के जो स्टूडेंट हैं, या क्लासिकल डांस के और भी जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं, मुझे लगता है कि सभी मेरी बात से सहमत होंगे कि एकमात्र ऐसा नृत्य है कथक नृत्य जिसमें दुनिया भर के प्रयोग हुए हैं, या हम इस भाषा में भी कह सकते हैं कि जिसको बहुत अलग अलग तरीक़ों से बिगाड़ा गया है या कैसे भी करके उसको प्रयोग में लाया गया है. इसका जो स्वरूप है, इसका जो मूल स्वरूप है, या इसका जो मूल जिसको हम लोग बेस कहते हैं, जो मंदिरों से शुरू हुआ था, बहुत कम सुविधाओं वाले मंदिर और अत्याधुनिक तकनीक. आज हमारे पास ऑडिटोरियम है, लाइट्स हैं, पहले ज़माने में ये नहीं होता था. लेकिन वहाँ से लेके आज तक जो भी इसमें बदलाव हुए हैं, उसमें आधुनिकीकरण का कितना सही उपयोग हो रहा है या उसको कितना सही ढंग से हम प्रयोग में ला पा रहे हैं, यही मूल उद्देश्य है. एक छोटी सी घटना बताना चाहूँगा. मैंने एक टीवी रियलिटी शोज़ में देखा था एक बॉलीवुड सॉन्ग, बॉलीवुड भी नहीं था, किसी एल्बम का सॉन्ग था, काला चश्मा करके बहुत फेमस गाना है. उसमें किसी ने डांस किया और बहुत बड़े एक डायरेक्टर हैं, उनका नाम नहीं लूँगा, उन्होंने मतलब उनकी आंख में आंसू आ गए और उन्होंने बोला, अरे व्हाट अ क्लासिकल परफॉर्मेंस यू डिड. एक छोटा बच्चे ने किया था. वहाँ से मुझे क्लिक हुआ कि क्या हो रहा है हमारे साथ. क्योंकि किसी भी गाने पे अगर क्लासिकल नृत्य बोल के अगर कर रहे हैं, हम कुछ भी मूवमेंट कर रहे हैं, और छोटे बच्चे को तो पता नहीं, 7 साल 8 साल के बच्चे को क्या पता है, क्या वो शास्त्रीयता को हम बरकरार रख पा रहे हैं, क्या वो शास्त्रीयता हम अपनी आने वाली पीढ़ी को दे पा रहे हैं. मेरे पास 5 साल से लेके 72 ईयर्स के अभी स्टूडेंट्स हैं, 68 ईयर्स के स्टूडेंट हैं, और वहाँ 5 साल 6 साल 7 साल 8 साल वो सब हैं. मेरे पास जब माँ बाप आते हैं, वो मुझे बोलते हैं कि सर आप बॉलीवुड सिखाते हो, तो मैंने कहा नहीं, मैं बॉलीवुड नहीं सिखाता, मैं जानता भी नहीं हूँ क्या होता है बॉलीवुड. लेकिन उनको समझा पाना बहुत मुश्किल है. वो बोलते हैं कि नहीं, इनका इंटरेस्ट तो बॉलीवुड में है. अब इंटरेस्ट एक बच्चे का डेवलप कैसे होगा, उसको कैसे पता कि ये बॉलीवुड है या क्लासिकल है. हम कैसे बताते हैं अपने बच्चे को. मैं एग्जांपल देता हूँ उनको कि आप क्या पानी पिलाते हो अपने बच्चे को, बोला हाँ. मैं बोलता हूँ कि आप पानी की जगह रोज़ कोल्ड ड्रिंक पिलाते हो क्या. उसका इंटरेस्ट तो कोल्ड ड्रिंक में ही होगा, बोला हाँ कोल्ड ड्रिंक शी लाइक और ही लाइक। तो मैंने कहा रोज़ आप कोल्ड ड्रिंक देते हो क्या? नहीं। क्यों नहीं देते हो? क्योंकि इट्स लाइक अ स्लो पॉइजन। ये एक बहुत गहन मुद्दा है। मुझे किसी ने बोला, अभी 2-3 जनों ने बोला, इवन सुनील ने भी बोला कि यू टुक अ वेरी कॉन्ट्रोवर्शियल टॉपिक। येस, इट इज़ अ कॉन्ट्रोवर्शियल टॉपिक, क्यों नहीं होगा? तो बहुत कम सुविधाओं वाले मंदिरों से लेके अत्याधुनिक तकनीक वाले सभागारों तक, उसके बाद लाइव संगीत का उपयोग। पहले तो रिकॉर्डिंग नहीं होती थी, आज हम लोग रिकॉर्डिंग पे करते हैं, लेकिन उसमें भी जो चीज़ें हमारे पास उपलब्ध हैं उसको लेके आगे बढ़ने का जो एक तरीका है। आध्यात्मिकता और साहित्य प्रस्तुति से लेकर अर्धशास्त्रीय प्रस्तुति। अर्धशास्त्रीय प्रस्तुति मुझे आज तक समझ में नहीं आया, सेमी क्लासिकल जो बोलते हैं, लेकिन सेमी क्लासिकल को सीखने के लिए भी तो क्लासिकल की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी ना। कई लोग आते हैं बोलते हैं कि हमें सेमी क्लासिकल सिखा दीजिए, तो मैं पूछता हूँ कि आपका क्लासिकल का बेस है क्या? क्या आपने क्लासिकल सीखा है? अगर नहीं सीखा है तो आप सेमी क्लासिकल कैसे सीख सकते हो? ये भी एक टॉपिक है। तो इस विषय को लेकर, आधुनिक कथक को लेकर, जब मैंने इसका लिटरेचर रिव्यू किया, जब मैंने साहित्यिक समीक्षा की कुछ गुरुजनों का, जिनमें से कि सबसे पहले मैंने बात किया इस बारे में, और भी गुरुओं से बात किया, उसके बारे में मैं बताऊंगा, लेकिन मेरे दिमाग में जब ये सवाल आया तो सबसे पहले मैंने हम सब जानते हैं, उनसे परिचित हैं, महामहोपाध्याय पंडित पद्मश्री पंडित डॉक्टर पुरुदाधीच जी। तो उन्होंने एक ही बात बोली कि आजकल जो हो रहा है वो कथक है ही नहीं। तो मैंने कहा कि आप इसको प्लीज़ बताइए। तो उन्होंने बताया कि प्राचीन काल की कथक नृत्य के हाथ के इशारों और भावों पर विशेष जोर होता था। जो भी हम मुद्राएं कर रहे हैं, हमारे यहाँ सिंगल हैंड जेस्चर्स हैं, डबल हैंड जेस्चर्स हैं, इवन एक पूरी की पूरी 2000 मुद्राओं की किताब लिख डाली है डॉक्टर विभादादित्य जी ने, वो है। तो मुद्राओं को, इशारों को बहुत अच्छे से हमारे यहाँ पे यूज़ किया जाता था, प्रयोग में लाया जाता था। कथक नृत्य, उन्होंने बताया, मुझे ये बात पहले पता नहीं थी, कई लोगों को नहीं पता थी, कि सिर्फ केवल और केवल एकल नृत्य ही था। जैसे भरतनाट्यम आप देखिए, आज भी जब परफॉर्मेंसेस होती हैं भरतनाट्यम में और दूसरे डांसेस को देखता हूँ, आज भी जो नियम सदियों पुरातन काल से है, आज भी वही नियम चले आ रहे हैं, काफ़ी हद तक उसको फॉलो होता है। लेकिन कथक नृत्य में गंगा जमुनी तहजीब आई, बहुत सारे अलग अलग चीज़ें मिक्स हुई, तो बहुत ज़्यादा कुछ उसमें मिक्सिंग हुआ है। लेकिन उस मिक्सिंग में भी जो शास्त्रीयता का दायरा है वो कितना है, ये एक बहुत ही तर्कसम्मत और बहुत ही शोध का विषय है। गैर शास्त्रीय गीतों पर प्रस्तुति देना ठीक नहीं है, ये डॉक्टर पुरुदाधीच जी बोलते हैं। अगर शास्त्रीयता को ही सर्वोच्चता बरकरार रहे तो आधुनिकता में कोई दिक्कत नहीं। अभी रिसेंटली मैंने उनका एक कार्यक्रम होस्ट किया था, संपूर्ण रामायण के नाम से उन्होंने एक कार्यक्रम किया था। विश्वास कीजिए उसमें आधुनिकता थी। आधुनिकता मतलब उसमें म्यूज़िक था, पूरा आज के ज़माने का म्यूज़िक, उसमें जो भी स्टूडियो रिकॉर्डिंग थी, सारा कुछ था। मुझे विश्वास नहीं हुआ जो म्यूज़िक जिन्होंने किया था, कौशिक बसु जी, और गुरुजी ने उसको स्क्रिप्टेड किया था। वाल्मीकि तुलसी रामायण को उन्होंने लिया था, लेकिन मुझे समझ में नहीं आया कि इसमें तुलसीदास जी का पार्ट कौन सा और कथक का पार्ट कौन सा है। इस ढंग से उसको मर्ज किया था। जिन्होंने देखा है तो बहुत अच्छी बात है, जिन्होंने नहीं देखा है, जब भी मौका मिले ज़रूर उसको पूरा 1.5 घंटे में पूरे रामायण को करना। तो ये आधुनिकता का बहुत ही अच्छा एक उत्कृष्ट उदाहरण है। उसके बाद बहुत ही अच्छा एक इंटरैक्शन हुआ था मेरा, बहुत डिटेल में, और कई दिनों तक चला था। और हम लोग हमेशा पूछ रहे थे, पंडित बिरजू महाराज जी सभी जानते हैं, उन्होंने यही बताया कि तो हमारे परिवार में जो पारंपरिक रूप से सिखाई गई बातों को बताया गया है, उन्हीं को पालन करना। हाथ को अगर ऐसा रखना है, अब अलग अलग गुरुओं का अलग अलग मत है, हम लोग जनरली ऐसे नहीं सिखाया जाता। हमें बताया था कि इसको हमें धक्का देना है, अगर हम इसको तत् एंड तत्, तो इसमें बॉडी भी जाएगा। तो वो जब इलेबोरेट करके दिखाते थे लगता था अरे एकदम सही करके दिखा रहे हैं, लेकिन उनको ये शास्त्र से नहीं मिला, उनको अपने ताऊ जी से, अपने पिताजी से ही सीखने को मिला। उन्होंने क्लियरली बोला। बाद में जब उन्होंने मिलाया, जब उन्होंने रचनाएं की, एक अंग काव्य करके उनकी रचना है, जब जिसने भी पढ़ा होगा, उसमें जो एक एक मुद्राओं को उन्होंने परिष्कृत करके परिभाषित किया है। ऊर्ध्व हस्त चक्र है, मध्य हस्त चक्र है, तल हस्त चक्र है, लेकिन सिर्फ हस्त नहीं है, सिर्फ हाथ नहीं है, उसमें बॉडी का भी घुमाव है। अगर हम ऊर्ध्व कर रहे हैं तो ऊर्ध्व के साथ साथ हमारा चिन्ह भी उठ रहा है, आंख भी उठ रही है और बॉडी भी उठ रहा है। बॉडी उठ रहा है तो ये पूरा खिंचता है। वो दिखाते थे एक पेट पे हाथ रखे तो एकदम खिंचा हुआ रहता था, पीठ पे हाथ रखे तो एकदम तना हुआ पीठ। और जब वो मीड़, स्पेशली जो हम लोग मीड़ लेते हैं, बोलते हैं मीड़ में हाथों का यूज़ ही नहीं होता। वो पहली बार मैंने समझा, अरे महाराज जी कैसे बोल रहे हैं। ऐसे मैंने जयकिशन महाराज जी को भी बोलते हुए सुना है कि मीड़ में हाथ का क्या यूज़ है, वो तो बॉडी का घुमाव है। अब बॉडी का घुमाव, ये जो आज जैसे अभी पोलोमी दीदी नहीं है यहाँ पे, लेकिन उन्होंने एक छोटा सा बात बताया कि जो चाल है, मटका लेके चल रहे हैं, एक थिन लाइन ड्रॉ होती है कि थोड़ा सा भी इधर से उधर हुआ तो वो अशास्त्रीय हो जाएगा, वो बॉलीवुडिश हो जाएगा। अगर मैं इसको शास्त्र मत से लेता हूँ और इसको मैं शास्त्र मत से नहीं लेता हूँ तो एकदम डिफरेंट एक फीलिंग आएगा। तो ये महाराज जी ने बहुत ज़्यादा इसको क्लियर किया। तो आधुनिकीकरण, उनके हिसाब से आधुनिकीकरण हो भी जाए तो कथक नृत्य शैली अपनी पवित्रता को नहीं खोनी चाहिए। कथक हमेशा प्रकृति से जुड़ा है। उन्होंने एक बड़ी अच्छी बात बोली कि कथक को, क्योंकि वो कथक थे, हैं अभी भी हमारे बीच में, उन्होंने कथा वाचन किया है तो उन्होंने कथक के बारे में बताया, लेकिन उन्होंने ये भी बताया कि उन्होंने कथक एक ये भी बताया कि सिर्फ कथक नहीं, जितने 8 के 8 इंडियन क्लासिकल डांसेस हैं ये सब के सब प्राकृतिक हैं। क्यों? क्योंकि प्रकृति नियम से बंधी है और शास्त्रीयता का मतलब ही यही होता है कि जो नियम से बंधा हो। अगर नियम से विमुख ये होगा तो फिर तबाही निश्चित ही है। तो बहुत सारा कुछ बोलने का मन होता है, आप सबको पता है। लास्ट एक मैं जो अध्ययन का दायरा और ये सारा कुछ जो मैंने रिसर्च किया है, बहुत सारे मैंने सैम्पल्स इकट्ठे किए हैं, डेटा कलेक्शन किया है, बहुत सारी चीज़ें की, लेकिन जो निष्कर्ष मुझे समझ में आया वो यही आया कि किसी भी समाज में यदि लोक संगीत उसकी आत्मा है, फोक म्यूज़िक अगर आत्मा है, तो शास्त्र या शास्त्रीयता जो है उसके संस्कार हैं। बिना संस्कार के कोई भी समाज सभ्य समाज नहीं बन सकता। हमें अगर वी आर स्टिल, आई थिंक इट्स माई पर्सनल ओपिनियन दैट वी आर लिटरेट नॉट एजुकेटेड पीपल, we have to be educated. Thank you so much, and my research is still going on. Thank you so much.
नृत्य प्रस्तुति और शिक्षा शास्त्र में नया दृष्टिकोण, चित्रकला के आयाम से नृत्य। नृत्य हमेशा समाज में मनोरंजन और आत्मरंजन का माध्यम रहा है। कथक उत्तर प्रदेश का एक शास्त्रीय नृत्य रूप है जिसकी उत्पत्ति मंदिर परंपरा से हुई है, जहाँ कीर्तनकार मंदिर में भगवान के सामने नृत्य कर कर कहानी सुनाते थे। मुगल आक्रमण के बाद यह नृत्य दरबार में प्रस्तुत होने लगा। इसके बाद मंच परंपरा आई जहाँ कथक की प्रस्तुति का विशेष वस्तुक्रम बना। अब केवल प्रस्तुति के रूप में ही नहीं बल्कि कला की शिक्षा भी शुरू हुई। शैक्षिक अकादमिक की तरह नृत्य सीखने में विभिन्न परीक्षाएं और सर्टिफिकेट कोर्स ऐसे मानदंड भी शुरू किए गए, जिसके कारण एक अकादमिक विषय की तरह नृत्य सिखाने को एक पद्धति और अभ्यासक्रम प्राप्त हुआ। लेकिन आज हम देख सकते हैं इस नृत्य शैली का प्रदर्शन बदल रहा है। युवा नर्तक आज अधिक सोशल मीडिया और लोकप्रियता पर ध्यान केंद्रित कर रहे हैं, जिसके कारण कोरियोग्राफी नीरस और दोहरावदार चक्रियों का अनावश्यक उपयोग आदि ऐसी हो गई है, जिसके परिणाम स्वरूप नृत्य का सौंदर्यवादी तत्व लुप्त होता जा रहा है। सौंदर्य शास्त्र को ही कला का आत्मा माना जाता है। आकार सौंदर्य, विचार सौंदर्य को जोड़कर बनता है भाव सौंदर्य, जो कला का परमोच्च ध्येय होता है। पाश्चात्य विद्वान डिरशाट के अनुसार सौंदर्य किसी वस्तु के विभिन्न भागों में सूत्रबद्धता लाता है। सौंदर्य शास्त्र जटिलता की ओर ले जाता है। नृत्य प्रस्तुत करते समय कलाकार को सौंदर्य शास्त्र पर विचार करना चाहिए, क्योंकि जब कलाकार को वह आत्मिक सुंदरता और लौकिक सुंदरता का साक्षात्कार हो तभी वो कला का निर्माण कर सकता है। इसीलिए कभी भी कला को प्रस्तुत करने से पहले उसके सौंदर्य को समझना आवश्यक है। सौंदर्य के इस तत्व को फिर से नृत्य में बोने के लिए शिक्षा शास्त्र और नृत्य प्रस्तुतियों को एक नए दृष्टिकोण से देखना चाहिए। हमने जब नए छात्रों को एक नृत्य कला पढ़ाना शुरू करते हैं तो हम हस्त संचलन, पद संचलन, भ्रमरी की बुनियादी बातों से शुरू करते हैं, जिनके उन्हें भविष्य में प्रस्तुति के लिए आवश्यकता होती है। कुछ समय बाद हम विभिन्न रचनाओं जैसे तोड़े, परन, अन्य सैद्धांतिक अवधारणाओं को पढ़ना शुरू करते हैं, परंतु विभिन्न ललित कलाओं के सहसंबंध का अध्ययन काफ़ी समय पश्चात होता है। यदि हम विभिन्न ललित कलाओं के परस्पर संबंधों को प्रारंभ से ही पढ़ाएं तो छात्रों को कला को समझने का दृष्टिकोण अधिक स्पष्ट होता जाएगा। इसीलिए कक्षा के छात्रों को नृत्य और चित्रकला के बीच संबंध सिखाया जाए तो पहले से अच्छा होगा। एक कथक नर्तक होने के लिए चित्रकला के मूल तत्वों का अध्ययन यानी रेखा, बिंदु, आकार, इसका अध्ययन करके नृत्य में संरचना करने तथा रसभाव प्रदर्शन में उसका समायोजन से नृत्य के सौंदर्य में अनेक नया आयाम निर्माण करना, यही अनुसंधान का उद्देश्य है। ललित कला इनके अंतर संबंध का अध्ययन करने के लिए इनमें पाए जाने वाले तत्वों का अध्ययन करना बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। चित्रकला के मूलभूत तत्वों के साथ साथ नृत्य प्रस्तुति के लिए जो महत्वपूर्ण है, जो सौंदर्य शास्त्र के लिए आमतौर पर स्वीकृत तत्व है, वो भी समझाए जाते हैं, जैसे पुनरावृत्ति, विविधता, विरोध, उत्सर्जन, लय, तोल, संतुलन, श्रेणीक्रम, प्राधान्य और गौणत्व, संक्रमण, संवाद, एकात्मता। इसके लिए जो प्रयोग किया गया, नृत्यालय में जो विशारद के छात्र हैं उसे शुरुआत से ही नृत्यालय में नृत्य रचना और शिक्षा के साथ ही ललित कलाओं का संबंध सिखाया गया था और उन्हें एक नृत्य संरचना करने के लिए दिए गई। वही कार्य जब नृत्यालय में बाहर से आए हुए एमए की शिक्षा प्राप्त करने के लिए जो छात्र आए, उनको भी उस संरचना का काम दिया गया। संरचना के समय किया गया विचार जैसे रसभाव, हस्त संचलन, विविधता, चाल चलन में संक्रमण, संगीत का साथ संतुलन, एकात्मता, उनका अलग अलग था। जो विद्यार्थी पहले से ही नृत्यालय में सीखते थे, उनका चित्रकला के तत्वों का अध्ययन किया गया हुआ था, तो उन्होंने नृत्य रचना करते समय उन तत्वों को देखकर ही नृत्य संरचना पे काम किया। लेकिन दूसरे जो छात्र थे, उनके नृत्य संरचना में कई चीज़ों की कमी दिखाई दी और सौंदर्य शास्त्र के दृष्टि से भी कमी दिखाई दी। बाद में उन छात्रों को भी चित्रकला के तत्वों का अध्ययन करके उनको फिर से नृत्य संरचना करने का काम दिया गया, तो उन छात्रों में भी बदलाव दिखाई दिए गए, उनके विचारों में भी बदलाव दिखाई दिया और उन्होंने ही छात्रों ने कहा कि चित्रकला के तत्वों का अध्ययन कितना ज़रूरी है। तो इस प्रयोग में ऐसा समझ में आया कि इस विषय का अध्ययन करने के लिए आने वाले कलाकारों में सृजनशीलता से संरचना करते वक्त अन्य नए विचारों का कल्पनाओं के द्वार खुले जाएंगे। इस विषय का अध्ययन करने के लिए गुणात्मक पद्धति का अवलोकन किया गया और इसके साथ चित्रकला के तत्वों का नर्तन करते समय प्रयोग करके अध्ययन किया गया। हम जब कोई कला सीखते हैं तब उसके नींव तक जाना बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है और उसका शास्त्र का अध्ययन करना बहुत ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि उस कला का ज्ञान हम वहाँ तक नहीं जा सकते जब तक हम शास्त्र का अभ्यास नहीं करते।
Last 1 minute.
ललित कलाओं का अंतर संबंध और उनके तत्व का अध्ययन अगर शिक्षा शास्त्र में जोड़ा जाए तो नृत्य प्रस्तुति अर्थपूर्ण बनेगी और इस विचारधारा से भारतीय अभिजात ललित कलाओं को भी आगे प्रभावित होगी। थैंक यू।
Humble pranams to all the dignitaries, gurus, and rasikas. I am Mugdha D'Souza, a Kathak dancer, disciple of Guru Sharvari Jaminis, and a research scholar from Shish University. Out of 10 topics, I have chosen challenges in choreography with respect to narration of theme-based performance. Introduction. There are certain terms which I have to quickly give little information about, so it can connect the dots to my topic. Choreography. The word choreography is derived from Greek, which means dance. The word has come from West, but in today's time, it is commonly used for all the dance styles. Pindi Bandha. Sage Bharata and Natya Shastra uses the word Pindi Bandha, which means group dances. Solo presentation. Though Indian classical dance forms were exclusively performed solo, later evolved in group presentations with a modern touch of abstract themes, philosophical ideologies, and a new age content, yet maintaining the classical code of conduct for presentation. Sutradhar. There are some references from the treatise. When dance was part of Natya, the whole performance was conducted by a Sutradhar. It literally means thread holder. Sutradhar is considered as central character of Sanskrit theatre. Many inferences we get from different treatises which mentions the importance of Sutradhar and its characteristics. I will mention very few because my main topic is different, but yet I need to introduce. In Dasharupaka by Dhananjay, Purva Ranga Vidhayado Sutradhare Vinirgate Pravishyatadvara Kavya Masthamaya Netaha. When the Sutradhar has gone out after disposing of the preliminary act at the beginning of play, another actor enters to introduce the play. There's one more. In Sharda Tanaya, after Nandi part, the Sutradhar comes on stage and binds the performance in form of Kavya. In Bhava Prakashan by Dasham Adhikar, qualities of Sutradhar and mentioned in which he should be well versed with the literature, music, tala pattern, rasa and bhava. Due to time constraint, cannot read every shloka in inference, but there are many. In today's era, when Indian classical dance has individual identity and has developed its own repertoire, the importance of Sutradhar still prevails. Whether mythological stories or philosophical subjects shown through a choreography, the significance of narration matters a lot. As in the beginning, respected Swati Tai performed 2 compositions, but without that explanation, it would have not reached the audience at large, which was from a different background altogether. Here, these are some text. I know it's very difficult to read, but these are some of the inferences I got. In today's era, out of all classical dances, Kathakali still follows the code of Natya and its presentation, where there is a Sutradhar who comes and does a Purva Ranga, and then the whole performance starts. And of course, he comes in between to introduce certain pieces. Here comes a statement of problem. Any theme-based choreography tells stories and communicates to us via its non-verbal code, or more precisely in classical dance, the Hasta Mudras are the main medium of conversation. When the narratives are not appropriate, there lies the polarity between the performance and the spectator. Actually, I meant by that is if I have to perform something different, or probably I have to perform which is let's say a different theme, or probably a different story, I need to first inform to the spectator. I need to give them information about it. I need to get involved. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for them to connect with us. So here comes my research question. What is the significance of appropriate narrative in content-based choreography? How can we convey such an emotional impact upon the spectators that remains deeply in their hearts? My research objectives here are the challenges of narrative faced by dance gurus while creating a theme-based choreography, the importance of relevant narration to enhance the aesthetics of choreography. Here comes the significance of research. This research would be attempting to enlighten the upcoming generations of classical dancers to have better understanding of narrative for a creative work and its appropriate application in performance to captivate the audience. Then comes my literature review. First one is by Walter Sorrell. In ancient culture, Oriental dance is essentially a gesture dance. The Asians turned the human body into an instrument of gesture and symbol. Next is David McNeil, says gestures open a window onto the mind. Taking gesture into account, we see patterns not revealed by the speech alone, and how comprehensively this speech gives meanings which are constructed. Mary Lauren Rar compares various narratives where text is present to narrate the story in silent era of films. Pantomime and emblems are part of the dance narratology complex science system. Last one is Elizabeth Hayes. She says that the ultimate goal in choreography is to create dances that objectify thoughts. I feel that when we perform something, it definitely creates an image. But to create that image in a spectator's view, we need to really connect. We need to have that bridge. between the performer and the spectator, and there lies the importance of narration. The narrative is very important. We cannot bombard audience with lot of words and make the dance as a secondary, but it has to be so symbolic. It has to be very indicative, from where the spectator feels that yes, I need to get involved equally with the performance, so I really understand the content or the gist of the performance. Research design, qualitative data and in-depth interviews are used. Semi-structured interviews were conducted with open-ended questions. I took 2 interviews because it was a research paper. I took interview of Guru Sharvari Jaminis and Guru Vaibharekar. What were my research questions? What are the challenges regarding narration in any specific theme-based choreography? Both of them had similar answers. They said that we wish not to bombard the audience with too many words, with too much information. It has to be like in between the lines, where they are really excited and more intrigued to watch the performance rather than getting the whole idea of the performance and then later not being interested in it. Then narration is considered as an integral part of choreography or just as an interlude. When I asked this question to both of them, they had similar answers, yet I felt that their perspective did matter to it. When it is a mythological story, yet with a different twist, they said that it's very important that we just not say that कि ये तो आपको पता ही है. नहीं, ये आपको पता है, तभी भी इसमें हम क्या दिखाना चाहते हैं, क्या पर्सपेक्टिव हमारा है एज अ परफॉर्मेंस, ये बहुत मायने रखता है. एंड द सेकेंड वन इज एब्स्ट्रैक्ट themes, or like more of a philosophical themes, where you know the subject.
Last 1 minute.
Where you know the subject, yet you want to portray the philosophical aspect, you really need to work on the narrative. That's it. Narration use makes any difference for the theme and audience? Yes, it definitely makes a difference. Any specific choreographical work which highlights the need and importance of narration? Due to time constraints, I would not be able to explain that, but I would move to the conclusion. The 2 case studies definitely answered our research questions. It is evident that narration plays a significant role in any theme-based choreography, irrespective of its concrete or abstract subject matter. Limitations I had, the sample size comprises of 2 dance gurus of same community. Interview responses might be biased because their perspective does include in this whole interview. Researchers bias, being a dancer myself, I might have my own bias, so I might have to work more towards it. So future scope of research is these findings would need further validation from the dance community at large. Future work may focus on conducting a sampling survey with a wider audience to validate the findings from this paper. These are certain references I have taken. Thank you. I would like to quickly give a presentation which is related to this. So I'm performing Tripura Sur. मैं इसके पीछे कथा बताना चाहूँगी. त्रिपुरा सर, हम सबको पता है कि भगवान शंकर का एक विशेषण कहलाता है. ये विशेषण कैसे उनको प्राप्त हुआ, यहाँ आता है इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ नरेशन. किस तरीके से मैं उसको रंजक बनाती हूँ, किस तरीके से मैं आपको बताती हूँ, आपसे कनेक्ट करती हूँ. तो भगवान शंकर, त्रिपुरासुर मैं कहना चाहती हूँ, सॉरी, त्रिपुरासुर ये एक राक्षस था. उसके 3 पुत्र थे और वो भगवान शंकर के निस्सिम भक्त थे. रोज़ बिना एक दिन मिस आउट किए हुए वो भगवान शंकर के चरणों में सहस्त्र हजार फूल अर्पण करते थे. एक दिन किसी कारण वो सहस्त्र फूल ना चढ़ा पाए तो उन्होंने अपना शिरच्छेद करके उनके चरणों में अर्पण किया. भगवान शंकर प्रसन्न हुए और उनको वरदान दिया कि एक ऐसा व्यक्ति जो एक निमिष में और एक ही शर से एक ही वक्त 3 पुरों का नाश करेगा, और ऐसा जब तक व्यक्ति नहीं आएगा तब तक आपको मरण नहीं प्राप्त होगा. अर्थात मत्त हो गए, 3 भी पुरों में उन्होंने नाश करने का प्रयत्न किया, प्रयास किया. देव ऋषि मुनि को बहुत छलवाद किया और फिर उसके बाद इन्हीं ऋषि मुनियों ने भगवान शंकर का पास गए और उन्होंने कहा कि आप ही आप बचा सकते हैं हमें. तो यहाँ पे एक बहुत ही रंजक कथा है कि तो उन्होंने रथ कैसे बनाया. तो वसुंधरा खुद दिव्य रथ बनी, तो सूर्य और चंद्र उसके पहिए बने। 4 वेद उसके अश्व बने, तो ब्रह्मदेव खुद सारथी बने। और ऐसे रथ पे भगवान शंकर सज्ज हुए और उन्होंने कनकाद्रि के कमान पे विष्णुदेव तब बाण बने और त्रिपुरासुर का वध किया। प्रस्तुत है त्रिपुरासुर।
तारक आसुर महाभयंकर अति निष्ठुर, विद्युन्माय कमल लोचन तारकाक्ष त्रिपुत्र थे उसके। अहोरात्र करे शिव की भक्ति, शिव पूजा दिन कछु ना सोचे। थे तकिन थे अथे तकिन थे थे तकिन थे अथे तकिन थे अथे तकिन थे थे तकिन थे अथे थे तकिन थे पूजा में सब विधि के संग नित दिन करे कमल अर्पण। सहस्त्र कमले रोज चढ़ाए, गिनती कभी न होवे कम। एक दिन जब नाम लिखवाए, सहस्त्र कमल पुष्प उनको शिरच्छेद करके अपना भी अर्पण कर दिया वो शिव को। देख के निष्ठा और भक्ति प्रसन्न हो गए भोले शिव जी। जीवित करके दैत्यों को देगी सत्ता उन त्रिपुरों की। संचार करोगे तुम त्रिभुवन में, ये वरदान दिया तब शिव ने। अभय दिया कि अमर रहोगे जब तक ऐसा वीर न आए। एक निमिष में एक ही शर से जो त्रिपुरों का नाश कराए। पाकर ये वरदान प्रभु से मत करूँगे वे दैत्य गर्भ से। करोड़े से काफी धरती थर-थर करके बादल छाए स्वर्ग पर। पराजित हुए देव ऋषि मुनि, छल कपट करे दानव भक्षण। त्रिपुरासुर का भस्म निमिष में आनंदित हुए
Shekhar, senior disciple of Guru Pandita Rohini Bhate. And you must be wondering why I am here, but I feel that some topics which are normally not handled by youngsters need to be dealt with, hence I'm here. And my topic is improvisation, the Upaj Ang in Kathak. So normally we see that Kathak has got its characteristic features like lots of chakkars, footwork, and gath as its forte. And these characteristics we experience through our senses of eyes and ears. But there is one more very, very important aspect of Kathak, and that is improvisation, the Upajanga. This is qualitative in nature, but its reflection, its manifestation is into all aspects of Kathak, Tatkar, Nruttanga, as well as Abhinay. So let us go step by step. I would like to refer to one comment by Sadanand Menanji about my Guruji Rohiniji. He said that rest all the dancers are still working in narration, but Rohiniji is the only artist, only dancer who is working in abstraction. So she has been the pioneer in searching for new things to present in Kathak. And lots of upaj must have happened all through her dance journey. And I've been witness to it all through the major compositions. So a running pass reference journey, running a fast run through maybe. So improvisation happens at the spur of moment during riyaz or even during performance. This type of creation is a totally unanticipated happening. At the same time, it is an outcome of dedicated, sincere learning, contemplation, and riyaz for years together. When upaj, improvisation, badhat happens, kanizers, Saruday Rasikas, also perceive it. This type of understanding is intellectual in nature. That is, data or information collected through outside sources with senses is compared, analyzed, and then conclusion is arrived at. Initially, it's the same for the dancer too. But then he works upon it during his riyaz and contemplation. Finally, when it starts reflecting in his dance, it is a flash-like intuitive happening. Thereafter, when his body and mind are completely prepared or ready to express any new idea through dance language, he is in a flow state. It's a specific term as defined by Hungarian positive psychologist Csikszentmihalyi. When he's in a flow state and humble and relaxed enough, there arises a possibility of upaj expression, divine in nature, meaning something beyond human comprehension. It can be said that upaj is a new creation with awareness that comes out of traditional grooming, and it always emits very strong vibes. It may be in the form of new gesture, different arrangement of the known syllables, new movement, new rhythmic phrase, or even a new simile or gesture in abhinaya. So let us consider Upachanga in 3 different sections. First is footwork. So footwork, we create different foot sounds by stamping feet on the ground in various ways, and the succession of such foot sounds. And we have various types of footwork, that is Baat, Jarab, Kramalai, Kaida, Rela, Peshkar, Farashbandi, etc., etc. But to me, these are the different ways in which we can expand the footwork. You see, and some of these types are open-ended, Vistaraksham, Rachana Prakar, and they obviously have ample scope for improvisation. So also the Dashapranas of Tala, Natya Shastra. The 10th Dashaprana is Prastar, meaning developing all the phrases till they become druta. That is one specific way of dealing with. According to my Guruji Rohiniji, change in gati, jati, yati, pat, bant, lay are ways of creating rhythmic patterns, different rhythmic patterns. So these are the basics for the footwork, and we can think in mountains terms. But here I would like to mention one special case. Pandit Birju Maharaj Ji, Dawan of Kathak, as we name him. And he always playfully created interesting rhythmic patterns just with his firm yet sweet-sounding chapat. After third presentation in his teen tal, his ease during this rendition and expertise in tuning with the tabla pakhwaj player and building rapport with the audience has always been noteworthy. So with this, we move to Nruttanga. So Nruttanga has a very big expanse, right from Thaat, Amad in Vilambit, till Tukras and footwork in Druta. And every aspect has ample scope for upach, that we can always say. Thaat, not being a bandish, has always good scope for improvisation, but we youngsters are not aware. Hence, I'm making to one special such case of Radha Krishna Ka Thaat in Calcutta conference way back in 1984. All the eminent Kathak gurus were present on the dais, and the discussion on Thaat was under consideration. Bharatnatyam Guru Shri C.V. Chandrasekhar stood up from the front row and made a reference to the Radha Krishna Ka Thaat by late Pandit Lachu Maharaj Ji. Further, he requested Guru Rohini Ji to throw light upon the topic and also to demonstrate some in the right of being his prime disciple, of being a prime disciple of Guru Lachu Maharaj Ji. On this, Guru Rohini Ji mentioned of viewing the one just twice before, not learnt at all, but was ready to give a try for its glimpses. Tucking her sari, she began with pure dance-like movements, charging, illuminating the performing space, and culminated on Radha or Krishna ka pose on some every time. All could sense the strong creative vibes in the Upaj Anga presentation. Each one in the audience was awestruck experiencing this. So this is, I think, a very, very valuable experience for me. And all those who were present there in that conference, and those who remember about it, they must be valuing it. We also know that the two types of laikari, Hisabi and Jigri. So Hisabi is a forte of Jaipur Gharana, and Jigri is the forte of Lucknow Gharana. So Jigri, emerging out of Jigar, as mainly observed in Lucknow Gharana, this Jigri laikari appearing like sparkles and pleasing in nature is more of Upach improvisation. And I've also seen Pandit Durga Lal Ji performing Taithathetat ke tukde in Upajanga. He used to go on and on during doing small modulations in the phrases, and for 15-20 minutes he used to do it. And only the connoisseurs could understand, otherwise people thought about the same bowl he is dancing. But I've experienced this twice in his live performances, and it is a very rich, enriching experience. So improvisation and expressive aspect of Kathak. That is the third and last and very important aspect, which has been talked about in details right from the beginning of Kathak. So what I feel is, we Kathak dancers, we follow North Indian Tala system and Hindustani music system. So the theka we have for the tal. So tal becomes audible. And tal kriya is not all that important during the performance. And that frees the dancer to move ahead in his upaj. So that is one more important thing. Now, the upaj here happens in mainly 3 ways. New gesture. Okay? So when you have something concrete, which is visible in nature, so it is comparatively easy to find a visual image in dance for the same. But when it is an attribute or something qualitative in nature, maybe concept, so it is very difficult to transcribe the same into dance language. And that is the challenge for dancers. And when you're working on such things, some such topics, it is a challenge for the dancer. And always new creation happens. Now, new movement. So we think that yes, my Kathak vocabulary is comparatively tight and same things I can do, I do this or this or that. But the same thing you can extend, and one such example I would like to frame here. Guru Rohini ji was working on Rutusamhar once, Sanskrit Rutusamhar by Kalidasa, and she was working on Grishma. So she had the different maybe pattern of Tal Tevra. Normally we have it as dha, dhin, ta, te, te, ka, ta, ge, de, ge, no. So she went as dha, dhin, ta, te, te, ka, ta, ge, de, ge, na, dha, dhin, ta, te, te, ka, ta, ge, de, ge, na. And the corresponding lehra was one line on a higher pitch, the other one in the lower pitch. That way she went, and she used the diagonal line on the stage and created some new movement to express the long days and nights in the summer. So same,
last 1 minute for presentation.
Yeah. So same vocabulary gives different effect. Okay? So maybe new simile you come across. And that simile without maybe words, because Kathak has this facility while doing Gat, you're not using words at all. Maybe in Abhinaya, you have one line going on, but in its interpretative aspect, without using the words of the simile, you are showing that in your expressive aspect. So that is one more way of going with it. So to me, these are the ways. Of course, all this assumes so many things. Both dancers and audience have ample time for artistic exchange. Even before this, the dancer works on these lines during his riyaz, which is done just for the sake of it. He enjoys the pleasure in doing so and no other intention, expectation, or goal in mind. He just goes on and the upaj improvisation starts happening. We know that creation is the quality of God. He is continuously creating everything in nature and from within us too. However, when this creation expresses through a dancer as his art expression, he is fully aware of it, fully aware of this new happening, and it is the celebration of creativity for him. To conclude, I would like to portray one simile. We see that the farmer sows seeds in the soil. Some of the seeds sprout in due course of time, some don't, and a few sprout a little late. Farmer expects the seeds to sprout. Whatever weed grows is removed and only the crop is taken care of. This output of crop then is
Your
called
time up, ma'am.
as upaj, fasal ki upaj. Thank you. So, in the light of my discussion, I would like to present one composition by Mahatma Jyotiba Phule. We say ओवी ज्ञानेश्वराची अभंगवाणी प्रसिद्ध तुकयाची सुश्लोक वामनाचा आर्या मयूरपंतांची. So Mahatma Jyotiba Phule's musical compositions, they are called akhandas. And one such simple akhand I have chosen, and it is full of attributes. On top of it, it has been sung in a singing mode, lots of alaps, and I'm not totally aware of how it has been sung, but I'll try to interpret it through my dance. And that will be my expression in this direction. Upaj happens, it can't be created, okay? So I present before you Akhanda by Mahatma Jyotiba Phule.
Namaskar. My name is Aparna Mahesh Panse, a research scholar from SSU University. Today's my subject is the application of Indian classical Hastamudra and Hastak as a medium of non-verbal communication with children with cerebral palsy. I have been fortunate to able to learn Kathak dance under the renowned Kathak guru and dancer Vidushi Rohini Tai Bhate. The learning was more of Gurukul system, and still we had a privilege to formal education of Kathak. This was a perfect blend of these two modules of education. It helped me with my teaching and interaction with Divyang students, especially able students. I have learned Kathak, classical Kathak dance, and parallelly, I have been in the field of education with Divyang students, being with them for more than 25 years. These 25 years give me an insight to act intuitively regarding the type, the range of movements, and the purpose of activities to be chosen while teaching these Divyang children. This gives me a motivation to pursue the said topic of research. Coming directly to today's topic, today's point, let us clarify some important terms, norms, verbs while dealing with this paper. First is the cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy is the group of disorder that affect a person's ability to move and maintain balance and posture. CP is the most common motor disorder in childhood. Cerebral means having to be with the brain, and palsy means weakness or problem with using the muscles. CP is a cause of abnormal brain development or damage to the developing brain that affect the person's ability to control his or her muscle. The next concept we would like to deal with is a non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication means conveying information without using words. This might involve using certain facial expressions or hand gestures to make a specific point, or it could involve the non-use of eyes, eye contacts, physical actions, and other non-verbal cues to get message across. As the title of this research paper says, we will now focus on the hand gestures used as a method of non-verbal communication. The inability of children affected with CP, cerebral palsy means all the time they call CP. So every time I use a CP for cerebral palsy. The inability of children affected with CP to express themselves, their physical, emotional, and cognitive development in an extent. Dance is a medium of expression that too non-verbal. Hence, use of this non-verbal mode of communication in CP-affected client will help them to lead a better life. Kathak is the classical dance, dance from northern part of India, and it is well known that it is the only dance form which has been witness to major political, geographical, cultural, and hence social offenses. In spite of all of these, the fact still remains that, like all other Indian classical dance forms, Kathak too trace his roots to the Natya Shastra. The Hastamudra, as depend in the Natya Shastra and similar texts, has particular meaning associated with each of them in terms of their application and references to the context in which they are used. But I wish to humble state that the Hastamudra, which might prove useful in the research, are not used by the book. I have attempted to use them in the way what would convey the meaning of task or a regular activity in my CP children. I wish to explain this after. My Guru Rohini Bhate has said about the hastak in Abhinay of Kathak. She says the hastak are used in 3 ways. First, anukaranatmak, meaning imitative. Hastak has shown to imitate a form of speed or a certain thing. For example, it's a chandrakor or mrugashirsha or sarpashirsha, showing the speed of snake. Vyanjak or suchak, meaning expressive or suggestive. The hastak that suggests a particular person, occasion, or things. For example, when we hold a basuri, it shows the Krishna. Or we took a ghungat, it shows a lady or a woman, the character of woman. And third is anubandhita, meaning a sequential hastak, when used in a particular sequence, convey the particular meaning. For example, covering the body with dupatta, or making a choti, combing a hair and making a choti out of it. I thought that I can use this concept theoretically in my research work as well as a practical while working with CP students. Spastic CP is a characterized by jerk and movement, muscle tightness, and joint stiffness. This type of cerebral palsy often makes a simple task, which as sitting, standing, walking, or picking up a small object from anything. The sign and symptoms of the sign and symptoms of cerebral palsy are different from every child. Differences of symptoms depend on the severity of that particular child. Here I इसमें है, हाँ इसी में है, इसकी बात है, आगे चलो. coming to the concluding point, I think that certain hastamudras and hastak can be used effectively or create a alternative language for CP children and their immediate caretakers, which may include parents or or other person in the house, as well as professional caretakers, so that it might be possible for CP children and their caretaker to come on common platform in terms of communication. It is need to these children are effectively might meet with. It helps further to enhance their relationship with their caretakers, caregivers, and turn help in their physical, psychological, and social well-being. Thank you. Here I show you some students जिनके साथ मेरा अभी काम शुरू है, जिनके साथ मैं काम कर रही हूँ. So they cannot walk or sit.
कर ना मॅडम जसं करतात कर.
Difficult for them to do a simple mudra. I'm trying to hold the total fingers together. So here I'm trying to make them to do this. अगर आप देख सकोगे तो यहाँ इस बच्चे का हाथ थोड़ा उठ रहा है. तो इस टाइप के बच्चों के साथ अगर हम हस्त मुद्रा के साथ कुछ जैसे केयर गिवर्स के लिए कुछ लैंग्वेज बना सके, जिससे इनको इनका कहना या फिर जो भी वो चाहते हैं वो कहना इजी हो जाए. थैंक यू.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I call Dr. Kapote sir and Swati ma'am to felicitate Aparna ma'am. Dr. Shetty ma'am, who was for morning, she was anchoring for this whole program. Because of her, that we can say smooth conduction of whole program. So she seriously heads off to her, and she. So give claps. Ma'am. Now we will proceed for our next session, next candidate of presenter. Now I call Isha Kathawate. She is going to present challenge in Kathak choreography.
Namaskar. Fag end of the day, and I can see very few faces, but I am going to try and make it interesting for all of you. Namaskar to all the gurus present backstage as well. Just 1 minute. Yeah. As you can all see, and she mentioned, my topic is Kathak choreography and the challenges therein. So before I dive into the topic, what I would like to do is, we'll all go through these 2 quotes by legendary gurus and keep them at the back of the mind, and then move on to the core topic. So the first quote is by Guru Chaitanya Jalan, who says, choreography is not merely group work, it is a science. It requires researching a new hand movement, a new gesture. And the second quote by legendary choreographer and Guru Kumudini Lakhyaji, choreography as understood today requires the dance form to be put in a different kind of space. Now, keeping this at the background, as per my study, I could classify the challenges in the Kathak choreography scenario into 2 categories, those in the choreographic process itself and those posed by the trends. Okay, so the first one I thought was inspiration and expression. As you all know, choreography is an idiom of self-expression. And there are multiple sources of inspiration, but what matters most is the proclivity or the inclination for experimentation and its urge to translate it or to express it. Also, well-researched, well-rehearsed and perfectly synchronized group presentations are very common, but we need to look beyond them. So the inspiration and expression with this motive is important. Next one is the thought process. Like my guru Manisha Tai says, Manisha Satheji, that sky is the limit for any thought process. So what is more important? Coming out of the comfort zone and think beyond the regular. Repetition of a theme or a subject is natural, but the challenge lies in interpreting the idea or the theme rather than its choice. As you all know, the basis of Indian arts is philosophical, moving from Laukik to Alaukik. So the focus in this whole choreographic process should be imbibing this philosophy. Scripting and execution, which involves a lot of research and clarity in thought process, and scripting will reflect in the execution. But unfortunately, scripting for dance choreographies is not taught in the regular or the formal courses of dance. The aim here should be aesthetic satisfaction, but as well as mental stimulation for the audience. What can they take back from your presentation? Next is performers and their management. I don't think I should elaborate on this, but because all of us dancers and teachers go through this at some point in time, and even the gurus who are still very known and popular but have this issue because there's a problem of plenty. Unlike when Guru Kumudini Lakhya in 1978 in one of the Sangeet Natak Academy journals, she mentioned, where do we find dancers for group dance? And that time was when the focus was more on solo Kathak, which is the actual form, and group dances were not in vogue. And there was a paucity of dancers. But now it's the other way around, problem of plenty, along with them managing the paraphernalia. And even though we hire specialists, but the choreographer has to be a multitasker. Choreographers have to be there in every department working and taking decisions. The next one, patronage and financial assistance. As you all know, arts thrive on patronage. Funds are always in scarcity. Executing any idea, any theme in limited funds, or keeping in mind the financial resources and then executing the idea. I mean, you may dream big, but finally it comes down to the reality. So that is a big challenge. Most of the times, especially for upcoming choreographers or dancers, it is an self-invested endeavor. And for gurus, I mean, you may have the funds, but how far can it reach and go? That also brings me to the next point, which is the reach or the future of any production or any choreography. So, like I said, For gurus, there is a larger scope because of the large audience and they are established dancers. But for upcoming choreographies or upcoming choreographers, future is uncertain. It depends on how well it is received by senior artists or eminent practitioners. If they tend to be there and present at the presentation and see it, then a feedback is given, and that's how they could possibly get more opportunities for these young choreographers. However, a truly engaging, intriguing, and pioneering work will always create its own path to success. That brings me to my next slide, which is the challenges posed by the trends. I'll quickly take you through what constitutes a trend with respect to Kathak or traditional Indian dance. When innovative changes that are displayed through choreographic work are accepted, appreciated, and admired, then a benchmark is established. Certain innovations do not fit the parameters and parameters needed to set a norm, hence get discarded over time. But the innovations or new aesthetic directions which are critically accepted, appreciated, become popular and tend to establish a trend for others to follow. So keeping this in mind, these are the challenges that we can see: maintaining standard, imitation, perception, mapping the trends. Now all these, I'll just say it in one line because of paucity of time. No single authority or organization can look into this because now we have a problem of plenty. We also have the social media. So there is no way one person or one authority can be everywhere, all around the country and in the diaspora, mapping who's innovating what for the first time. And with social media, I think it is getting even difficult who is doing a certain movement for the first time or creating a certain idea or presenting a certain idea in this reel or in that video production. It is practically, I think, not possible, but that is also a challenge in maintaining the standard and quality. And imitation, I think it's a thin line between inspiration and imitation or imitating something. So all these things require a lot of mindfulness and thoughtfulness behind what work you are doing or what work you are showing. You, in the sense, us dancers. Okay, this is coming again, no problem. This brings me back to those two quotes that I had mentioned. And like I said, keeping in mind the second quote by Guru Kumudini Lakhyaji, I think let's take it in the literal sense and say that Kathak fraternity has somewhere made a successful attempt of executing the dance form on the social media space with fairly smooth progression and thus appear to have living up to the wishful thinking expressed by the legend 2 decades ago. So this is space related, but I think the crucial challenge with us all as mindful dancers lies here. The loose application of the term choreography. I mean, the definition, the dictionary definition could be one thing, but for us, what is choreography or Kathak choreography? It is a more mindful, thoughtful, and well-researched process of exploration and self-expression. So it is not just any music and a few Kathak movements and you have a choreography. Let's be a little more mindful of using that word so randomly and so loosely, is what I think. And the other challenge could be that, is there a possibility of having a better terminology for the noteworthy and creative dispositions? I mean, if the amateur experimentation level dancers can call it choreography, can the gurus or the legends or those who are bringing out masterpieces in the true sense, can we bring in a different terminology which probably weighs more than just the word choreography, because it is a Western terminology adapted in the Indian classical dances. Though the concept has been with us through Natya Shastra and all these texts, but now that we are randomly using it, I think that's a thought to be taken home.
Last 1 minute.
I am done with my presentation. Thank you all for being patient listeners.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. This is finally Isha Katharte, and that was my thesis I submitted for the CCRT. Thank you so much. Any feedback from gurus as well as friends, I'm open to it. In fact, it would just add on to my little work that I'm doing. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Akanksha Brahme. I have done MA in Psychology, Nritya Visharad in Bharatnatyam, and currently pursuing MA in Bharatnatyam from Tilak Maharashtra Vidyapit. The title of my research paper is a comparative study of 10 standard female Bharatnatyam dancers and non-dancers on concentration in studies, study habits, and test anxiety. We all know that higher secondary education plays very important role in our life, and it is one of the building blocks of our education and career. And in the 10th standard especially, students face a lot of competition and pressure. I have been observing that suddenly in the 10th standard, the Bharatnatyam dancers who are learning Bharatnatyam, they discontinue learning because of the competition and pressure, the coaching classes, etc. So I tried to ask about this to my guru, Mrs. Maitreyi Bapat. I had a conversation with their parents as well. So the common reason was it might hamper the like class timing, or let's say 1.5 hours of practice might hamper their academic performance. So that actually triggered my mind that actually 1.5 hours of practice or 2 hours of Bharatnatyam practice will going to affect their academic performance. So let's start with this idea. So I chose a comparative model, that is I did research on a 10th standard female Bharatnatyam dancer, those who are going to give 10th standard exam, and non-dancers who are not taking any kind of training for dance. For that actually I chose few psychometric tests. For measuring concentration in studies and study habits, I used study habits inventory by D.N. Sansanwal and M. Mukhopadhyay. And for measuring test anxiety, I used test anxiety inventory by Saracen. So the data was collected with the help of this questionnaire, the standardized psychometric tests. And after collection, like the convenient sampling method was used. After the sampling, it was exposed to the statistical analysis with the help of SPSS. We did the comparative study. And the conclusions were like this. There was a significant difference between 10th standard female Bharatnatyam dancers and non-dancers on concentration in studies and study habits. The 10th standard female Bharatnatyam dancers showed better concentration in studies and study habits. So I tried to explore what are the different components of Indian classical dance or Bharatnatyam that may contribute to increase the concentration in studies or the study habits. So during the literature of review, I came across one research which says that the Bharatnatyam experts have better attention quality. Okay, so when we try to define the concentration in studies, is basically focusing on the studying part or to study particular thing without any distraction. So while I was going through that research, one of the major thing which came across, that is the drishti bhedas. The eye movements which we do or practice during our training, that actually helps us to build better concentration. Along with that, in the initial training, we take a lot of efforts to maintain the posture. The basic 3 postures of Bharatnatyam, Samapada, Aramandi, to maintain that postures, we take a lot of efforts that actually improves the body balance and helps to build better concentration. There were less studies which described about how Bharatnatyam dancers or Indian classical dancers are better at study habits. But with my own opinion, I would like to say that the way we learn dance, the kind of study habits we build for learning dance, the same thing we implement while learning or studying our academics. For learning dance, we make rehearsals, the repetition of actions that makes us doing rehearsal and that helps us to store information in our long-term memory. This transfer of training, implementation of the same way of learning in dance that helps us to build better study habits. Talking about the test anxiety, there were no significant difference between Bharatanatyam dancers and non-dancers. So further, I interviewed few representative samples and I came to know that be it Bharatanatyam dancer or non-dancer, they were not really anxious about exams. When I was reviewing the literature, I came to know that the early intervention or the prevention that actually help us to reduce the test anxiety. That is, you get anxious when you are being evaluated. So that was one thing which proved that there was no significant difference between both the groups. So when we can implement this study, like this was very small scale research, we have to do this research on a large scale. We can implement it on different groups, the students who are learning different courses like engineering, medical exam, or those who are preparing for competitive exams. As we have talked about the therapeutic value of our Indian classical dances, we can do the pre-test and post-test design and do the research regarding that. There were few limitations, as I said, it was very small scale research. The sample was only restricted to Pune city. And I have not considered the other hobbies of those Bharatanatyam dancers or non-dancers, which might hamper the variables or the result of study. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
नमस्कार, मैं रोहिणी कुलकर्णी, श्री श्री यूनिवर्सिटी कटक से मैं अपना पीएचडी कर रही हूँ अभी फ़िलहाल में। आज का मेरा प्रपत्र का जो विषय है वो है नृत्य और साहित्य। भारतीय प्रदर्शन कलाओं में भाषा और साहित्य अपनी महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाते हैं। विशेष रूप से भारतीय शास्त्रीय नृत्य अपने आप में एक भाषा है जिसमें अभिनय की गहराई को दर्शकों के मन मस्तिष्क में उतारने हेतु साहित्य की आवश्यकता होती है। भारत के सांस्कृतिक जीवन में काव्य और संगीत का विशेष स्थान है। यदि उपासना भारतीय जीवन का अभिन्न अंग है तो काव्य और संगीत उपासना के अभिन्न अंग है। मानव जैसे जैसे सभ्यता की ओर अग्रसर हुआ, उसकी भाषा और व्याकरण का विकास हुआ। भाषा किसी भी काव्य की आत्मा होती है। किसी भी भाषा के साहित्य निर्माण में उस युग के वातावरण, संस्कृति, समाज का प्रभाव पड़ता ही है। भारतीय संस्कृति में नृत्य का स्थान प्राचीन समय से ही है। मंदिरों में गायन तथा नृत्य मोक्ष प्राप्ति के साधन थे। अतः प्राचीन समय से ही साहित्य की रचनाओं में नृत्य संबंधी विषयों का समावेश होना स्वाभाविक था। नृत्य की परंपरा वेदों से पूर्व ही भारत में विकसित हो चुकी थी। तभी तो वैदिक साहित्य में नृत्य विषयक सामग्री का समावेश दिखाई देता है। यजुर्वेद की वाजसनेय संहिता के पुरुष सूक्त अध्याय 30 में लिखा है, नृत्याय सूतम गीताय शैलुषम, अर्थात नृत्य के लिए सूत और गीत के लिए शैलुष लोग हुआ करते थे। वेदों की रचना के पूर्व ही लोक में नृत्य और गान प्रचलित था। समस्त शास्त्रकारों ने वैसे भी सभी 5 ललित कलाओं को परस्पर अन्योन्याश्रित ही माना है। परंपरा से ही विभिन्न काव्य कृतियाँ अन्य कला रूपों में प्रतिच्छवित होती आई हैं। शारंगदेव ने भी कहा है, नृत्यम वाद्यानुगमनम प्रोक्तम वाद्यम गीतानुवर्ती च, अर्थात नृत्य वाद्य का अनुगमन करता है और वाद्य गीत के पीछे पीछे चलता है। इस प्रकार हम देख सकते हैं कि नृत्य और साहित्य परस्पर एक दूसरे से कितने अभिन्न हैं। कभी कभी तो यह भ्रम होता है कि नृत्य देखकर साहित्य लिखा गया या साहित्य के ऊपर नृत्य हुआ। कथक नृत्य की तो शुरुआत ही रामायण और महाभारत जैसे साहित्यिक ग्रंथों के कथाकथन से हुई, जो परंपरा आगे भी प्रत्येक युगों में उस समय की साहित्यिक कृतियों में नृत्याभिनय के रूप में गतिमान रही, जिसके प्रमाण संस्कृत साहित्य में हमें प्राप्त होते हैं। परंतु संस्कृत बोलचाल की भाषा न होने की वजह से जनमानस को उसे समझ पाना थोड़ा मुश्किल था। इसलिए 12वीं से 16वीं शताब्दी तक नृत्य साहित्य में जो इजाफा हुआ उसमें अवधी, ब्रजभाषा, खड़ी बोली, राजस्थानी भाषा, मराठी भाषा, जैन साहित्य का समावेश अत्यंत तेजी से हुआ। इन भाषाओं के साहित्य ने नृत्य जगत में अपनी महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाई। मुस्लिम शासकों द्वारा हमारी संस्कृति को नष्ट भ्रष्ट करने का सतत प्रयास किया गया, परंतु मध्यकालीन और रीतिकालीन भक्ति श्रृंगार साहित्य ने साहित्य और संस्कृत की त्रिवेणी को अनवरत जारी रखा। सूरदास, तुलसीदास, मीराबाई, नंददास आदि भक्त कवियों ने नृत्य साहित्य में इस परंपरा को बहुत समृद्ध किया। लोकोत्तर प्रतिभा के धनी कवियों की रचनाएं नृत्य का आधार बनी। डॉक्टर पुरुदधीच अपनी किताब नृत्य निबंध में लिखते हैं कि इसी तरह रीतिकालीन साहित्य के कवियों ने लक्षण ग्रंथों के बहाने श्रृंगार रस, नायिका भेद का इतना विस्तृत और सूक्ष्म वर्णन किया है कि यह श्रृंगार युग संबोधित किया गया। इस युग के साहित्य में निपुणता, छंद सौष्ठव, रसाभिव्यक्ति, उक्ति वैचित्र्य, प्रकृति के शिल्प, चतुरी एंड रीतिकाल के साथ ही तत्कालीन कथक नृत्य के गुण भी थे। रीतिकालीन कवियों द्वारा रचे गए कवित्त, सवैया, नायिका भेद विषयक रचनाएं नृत्य के प्रमुख और लोकप्रिय अंग बने। आधुनिक काल के नृत्य साहित्य में कथक रचनाकारों व नर्तकों द्वारा भी आधुनिक नृत्य कविता को सदृश्यता प्रदान करने की यथासंभव कोशिश की गई। साहित्य और नृत्य के परस्पर संबंध को जानने के लिए सुदृढ़ अतीत में झांकने की आवश्यकता नहीं है, क्योंकि नृत्य और साहित्य की संगीत परंपरा मंदिर से प्रारंभ होकर वर्तमान समय तक अनवरत जारी है। आज भी किसी भी नृत्य कला का प्रारंभ प्रायः संस्कृत श्लोक से ही होता है, जिसमें विष्णु वंदना, शिव वंदना, गणेश वंदना, सरस्वती वंदना इत्यादि वंदनाएं प्राचीन संस्कृत भाषा में लिखी होती है और जो आज भी प्रचलन में है। आचार्य नंदिकेश्वर द्वारा रचित अभिनय दर्पण से उद्धृत यह शिव स्तुति जो आज नृत्य में भी प्रस्तुत की जाती है, आंगिकम भुवनम यस्य वाचिकम सर्ववांगमयम आहार्यम चंद्र तारादिकम नमम सात्विकम शिवम। संस्कृत का प्राचीन साहित्य काव्य छंदशास्त्र और व्याकरण के अनुसार होता था। आज भी नृत्य की शुरुआत इन संस्कृत श्लोकों में होती है। इसके साथ ही नृत्य में अन्य भाषाओं के साहित्य का अनुप्रयोग भी प्रचुर मात्रा में हुआ है, जिसमें सबसे महत्वपूर्ण ब्रज भाषा है। किसी भी कला का रस ग्रहण करने हेतु उस कला की विषय वस्तु की प्रस्तुति की पद्धति और भाव प्रकटीकरण के लिए तरल भाषाओं को समझना आवश्यक है। इसमें भाषा की जटिलता भाव प्रस्तुति में बाधक हो सकती है। अतः संस्कृत साहित्य के सरलीकरण हेतु जनमानस में अपनी भावनाएं पहुंचाने के उद्देश्य से मध्यकाल में ब्रजभाषा साहित्य ने नृत्य में बड़ा योगदान दिया। ब्रजभाषा के अष्टछाप कवियों के साहित्य की रचनाएं नृत्य जगत के लिए बहुत उपयोगी रही हैं। माणिक महंत भगवान दास द्वारा कथक के संदर्भ में नर्तन भेद में वर्णित ब्रजभाषा का ये उदाहरण, जिसमें एक ही पद में नवरस का वर्णन है, अपने आप में नृत्य के लिए एक अद्वितीय रचना है। गोरी सलोने तोरे नैना श्रृंगार रस, नवल मदमाते हसत है हास्य रस, तान तान के तीर चलावे वीर रस, हिय डर पावे मैना भयानक रस, रोए मरत है तोरी सनेही करुण रस, अजब गजब के हैं सेना अद्भुत रस, रौद्र रूप बिरहा की चोटन रौद्र रस, नरक भई है
Last 2 minutes.
विभत्स, चक्र पिया अब प्रेमी तिहारो, बकत बैरानी बैरागी बैना। इसी तरह मराठी के भाषाकारों ने भी, जिसमें कि संत तुकाराम, संत जनाबाई, संत ज्ञानेश्वर, संत रामदास आदि के अभंग और गदिमा द्वारा रचित गीत रामायण जैसी साहित्यिक रचनाओं पर नृत्य प्रयोग होता आ रहा है। निष्कर्ष, साहित्य के चित्रों की सप्रमाणता का बहुत कुछ श्रेय भारतीय नृत्य परंपरागत ज्ञान को जाता है। कविता और नृत्य प्रदर्शन के भाव एक दूसरे के पूरक रूप में प्रयुक्त होते रहे हैं। कथक अक्षरों की आरसी में डॉक्टर ज्योति बख्शी लिखती हैं, काव्य के शब्दों का गुथाव, रचनाक्रम व लय, कथक की देह गतियों के क्रम, मुद्राओं के क्रम व लय से जुड़कर ही दोनों का अंतर संबंध स्थापित होता है। इस संपूर्ण संगठन से काव्य के भावों व कथक के भावों का एकीकरण होता है। थैंक यू।
Thank you, sir.
Namaskar. Presenting for the Kavita Tiwari. Subject is Satyam Shivam Sundaram. शास्त्रीय नृत्य व सौंदर्य। शास्त्रीय नृत्य हमारी संस्कृति विसरत का पारंपरिक तरीके से अलग अलग भावों को भागीदारी द्वारा हिंदू पौराणिक कथाओं का प्रदर्शन मुख्यतः वैष्णव, शैव, प्रकृत, शक्ति आदि विषय होते हैं। इन नृत्य कला का प्रदर्शन मंदिरों में होता है जो हमारी संस्कृति का केंद्र होता है। नृत्य में सौंदर्य। भारतीय दर्शन कथा में परमेश्वर के साकार रूप में आयोजित होने के लिए रुचे गोपियों और रूप में आदि की थी। नटवरी जो श्री कृष्ण है, यही नटवरी नृत्य के गोपिकाएं की रचनाएं हैं। यही अद्भुत का स्वरूप सुंदर हो जाता है। विष्णु के साथ विष्णु की जब शक्ति है, देवों वेदों रूप से गोपियों बनकर श्री कृष्ण के साथ रास रचाती हैं। उनमें प्रेम को दो पक्ष है, नृत्य का तात्विक पक्ष, नृत्य का प्रायोगिक पक्ष। साकार से निराकार जो शिव रूप, निराकार से साकार से वैष्णव रूप है। सौंदर्य की ओर से मंदिर और मूर्तियों से सजाया व श्रृंगार कर प्रसाद भोग लगाया जाता है। हर दिन उत्सव की तरह उनकी आरती, भजन, कीर्तन, गायन, वादन व नर्तन करते हैं। यही है नृत्य का सौंदर्य। उज्जैन में महाकाल मंदिर में सत्य शिव रूप को अलंकृत सुंदर श्रृंगार किया जाता है। हमारे इष्ट श्री कृष्ण जिसे नटवर कहते हैं, जो निराकार भी है, सजे हुए भी है, जो हमारे ईश्वर है। थैंक यू।
Thank you, Apurva. Now I call Bhavna Tai to present Rahul Rajak presentation. Topic is Kathak.
Hello everyone. मध्यकालीन कृष्ण काव्य और कथक नृत्य भारतीय साहित्य, समाज और संस्कृति में राम, कृष्ण और शिव सर्वस्वी स्वीकृत और प्रतिनिधि मिथिकीय चरित्र है। इन महान चरित्रों की वजह से विश्व साहित्य में भारतीय साहित्य की पहचान अक्षुण्ण है। कृष्ण के चरित्र की महान विशेषता यह है कि यह समावेशी चरित्र है। ये सिर्फ हिंदू समुदाय और संस्कृति में ही स्वीकृत नहीं है, बल्कि अन्य समुदायों में भी स्वीकृत एवं समाहूत है। कृष्ण काव्य प्रेम की संस्कृति का काव्य है। राधा कृष्ण की लीलाओं का वर्णन पूरे विश्व में अलग अलग विधाओं से ही की जा रही है। भारत में भी अपने संगीत और नृत्य कलाओं के द्वारा ही एक विशिष्ट स्थान प्राप्त किया है। यहाँ की संस्कृति सभ्यता का अपना एक अलग ही महत्व है। सगुण भक्ति धारा का अधिकांश काव्य भगवान कृष्ण की माधुर्य भक्ति से अनुप्राणित है। कृष्ण काव्य के प्रसंगों में यद्यपि वेदव्यास प्रणीत श्रीमद् भागवत, जयदेवकृत गीत गोविंद तथा विद्यापति की पदावली मुख्य उल्लेखनीय है, तथापि पुष्टि मार्ग के प्रवर्तक वल्लभाचार्य से अभिप्रेरित भक्त कवियों का श्री कृष्ण काव्य सृजन विशिष्ट है। भक्ति साधना में कृष्ण कवियों ने काव्य और संगीत को उपादान बनाया, जिससे ये यहाँ के इष्टदेव के सानिध्य की अनुभूति कर सके। वही प्राणी मात्र को सुखानुभूति करने में सक्षम हुए हैं। थैंक यू।
Thank you, Bhavna Tai. Now, I, Dr. Sanjuni, going to present Chandan Nalwade presentation. His topic is Nadi Nitya and Pranic Energy. The yogic concept of Nadi is the first found in Shiva Sarvodaya. The word Nadi is derived from Sanskrit root, that is Nadi. When blood continues to flow due to vital airs or energy in heart, this action generates the waves of contraction and expansion in all branches. This wave creates nad, that is sound. This conductive source has been addressed by the name of nadis. The conclusion of this paper is, from birth of different stages of life, there is a predominance of different types of nad in all human beings whose effect is reflected in dance. The Anga Shuddhi and Bhava Ardha Vyakti of dance depend on health of psychological function, and physiological function of each nadi. While walking on path of dharma, artha, karma, and moksha, the artist can do nadi shuddhi, keeping in front the highest goal of artist's life. Hence, next I call Mohini for presenting the presentation of Manasvi Sharma.
Good evening, everyone. Here I am presenting the presentation of Manaswini Sharma, a comparative study of Samyukta Hasta Mudra of Abhinaya Darpan and Natya Shastra. In ancient Indian civilization, the association of mudras have always been with the religious activities. Hasta mudras are hand gestures that are applied in yoga and Indian religions and can have symbolic, ceremonial, or therapeutic purposes. The meaning of the word mudra kept changing with the time. Some physical form of symbols in Indian classical dance form, we use our body as a medium to transport our emotions. The Hasta Mudra helps us to reach the audience and to convey our message to them. Also known as Hasta Abhinaya. Bharat has divided hastas in three categories: single-handed as Asayukta Hasta, double-handed or Sanyukta Hasta, and Rita Hasta. The number and the names of the Hasta Mudras vary from text to text, treatise to treatise. Here I will try to shed light on Sanyukta Hasta Mudra mentioned in Natya Shastra and Abhinaya Darpan in comparative manner. Thank you.
Namaskar. I'll be presenting on behalf of Aditi Yadav the topic Aesthetics of Janki Prasad Banaras Gharana Style of Kathak. Janki Prasad Banaras Gharana style hails from the Churu district of Rajasthan. As per the sources from the era of Aurangzeb, this Gharana was called Savaldas Gharana. During those days, Gharanas were named after the Gurus. Janki Prasad ji belongs to the 7th generation of this Gharana and was born in 1826 in Melusar Gram, Rajasthan. His father, Anand Prakash ji, was a great dance scholar. Janki Prasad ji was a Sanskrit scholar and he thought that Kathak should have its own syllables and not borrow bols from tabla or pakhavaj, as then the credit for those goes to tabla or pakhavaj. Hence he made Nritya Varnamala based on Vedic bols and used only 12 syllables to dance and compose. Salient features of the Janki Prasad Banaras Gharana are as follows: the tatkar on foot, on heels, sharp photogenic angika abhinay or sanchalan that keeps the audience engrossed, use of Natwari bowls for dance composition, etc. Janki Prasad Banaras Gharana, as mentioned before, uses the Natwari syllables. One classic example is the Krishna Kavita, which describes Sri Krishna and his various leelas. The Gungru has been described using the syllables Ganan Ganan instead of Chum Chum. The difference between these two is that Chum Chum is feminine and delicate, unlike Ganan Ganan. The styling and presentation aesthetics of Janki Prasad Banaras Gharana is unique in its own way. Oral interviews at various public platforms, videos, and textual interviews have been used for the research method here. Thank you.